Creators have once again taken to social media to attack and speak the truth about their experience working at the big two, in this case, Marvel Comics, who are accused by Dustin Wen and many other top industry artists of underpay, shady tactics when it comes to the way that they use the art that they do pay measly money for, and refusing to give pay raises and actually reducing pay over time. These are all things that we've talked about before, have bubbled to the surface, and now exploded via Dustin Wen's fiery attack against Marvel this week. We are going to talk about all the creators who had something to say, and it was a lot. Maybe one of your favorites when it comes to artists. Um, why it's specifically Marvel that is being taken to task in this way? There was a little bit of chatter about the rest of the industry, but it was mostly centered around Marvel. And what, if anything, can actually change to make this situation better, or if this is something that we have to think about a little differently. We've got Cale.
What's up, corporate dogs?
We've got Tyler.
I would not want to eat a corporate dog. It just probably tastes
Blech.
like hole punchers.
And I'm Sean. Thank you for joining us, whether we are live or in the future. And kicking things off is Hayden's Hideout, Mr. Goon Cover himself, with 5
Count 'em.
gifted Comics Pals memberships. Thank you so much, Hayden. Matthew Price, congratulations. Good to see you. Good to see one of the good guys winning. Eric Rodriguez, Carlos Flores, Shane L., and Noel Martinez. Congratulations on your gifted memberships. Thanks to Hayden's Hideout for doing that.
For sure.
Love
Great way to start the show. And also, Sean was disappointed in his Gooner cover pick this week on Pals Polls, so I think you've made up for it.
Yes. Yes, he has. Absolutely. Now, because Hayden did that, because Hayden gave those 5 channel memberships away, what that means is that we're going to also give away 5 channel memberships. We like to give back. So, but we're not going to do that yet. We're going to do that a little later on in the show. So if you guys want to win a channel membership here a little later, you're going to have to stick around. Thank you, Hayden. What we're going to do now, though, is we are going to kick off this conversation because there is a lot to talk about on this front. Now, Dustin Wen is a comic book artist whose name I gotta figure that you are familiar with on some level. Um, Dustin has done he did the he's done a lot of covers that I really like. Didn't he recently do a Batman and Robins or a Robin
He
series?
did a Robin series, yeah. Yeah, that was like young Dick Grayson. I think it was like a circus story or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, Killer
Yes.
Croc, yeah.
That was really good.
Dustin Wynn in my eyes is a Batman guy. You know what I mean? Like I remember in high school, I recreated one of the in my art class. The task was like, hey, it's almost the end of the year, do whatever you want. So I redrew one of his covers on like poster board. So like I've looked at his art for a good amount of time. One of my favorites, honestly, for Batman.
He also did Ascender and Descender with Jeff Lemire
Yeah,
Right.
ages ago now.
Totally. Yes, yes, absolutely. Forgot about that. And so he's done a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of books. American Vampire. That's one that he's done a little bit with Scott Snyder. Yeah, it was Robin and Batman, which was very good. I like that a lot.
That's right. That's right.
So he's been pretty entrenched. Notably, his Marvel credits aren't tremendous. There aren't a lot of credits for him from Marvel, and that will play a factor in this conversation. So Dustin, a few days ago, took to Instagram, and maybe it was posted on Twitter as well. I'm not sure. I saw it on Instagram,
yeah.
and he said, "Also, everyone I'm not working with at Marvel can go fuck themselves." He didn't say fuck. It actually was just a middle finger emoji, which is it's hilarious that there is a middle finger emoji, but
Right? We can the gun has to turn into a water gun, but middle finger is cool.
But hey, fuck them.
as they say, guns can kill you, but words can't. I think that's a phrase. Um, so he said, I've asked nicely for the past 15 years on behalf of every artist. Stop fucking creators over. You're not getting another cover from me until then. Drown me. I'm okay with your minimum wage bullshit. That is a pretty that's a pretty heavy statement. He followed it up with a comment that said, okay, getting hits earlier than expected from this one, and I'm kind of glad because I got words. But really, if this bothers you, I'm sorry. At Marvel has been undercutting creators from the start. Unless you're getting 6 to 7K a cover, then God bless. I hope you're getting a piece of the MCU and after sales. Between them and DC Official, they are the only one that doesn't pay a royalty for overseas sales. Think, America is the originator of superhero comics. Japan has manga, which we love. Europe has cool ass shit we love but can't describe. And what the fuck? They're not paying creators a piece? Come on, fuck this fucking shit. I am so sorry for all the curses, by the way. This
I'm
is what
not.
Dustin wrote. They're not paying creators a piece. Oh, I read that. Also, merch, lunch boxes, and teas. Good luck. I got a bunch of DMs from people telling me I gotta be careful. Quote, don't cross Marvel. They're a major player, the only two in the mainstream. Oh my God. Oh my God. Fuck them.
Hell
Man,
yeah.
like I give a flying fuck. Fuck Marvel Comics. Fuck anyone that I'm not directly working with. I love my Marvel editors because they get you your books out on time. The direct staff has no control. They don't juggle the stupid fucking numbers. I'm gonna break it into simple ass fucking terms. You're an artist. You draw shit. You want to get paid for shit now, in the future, forever. You draw now and in the future, in countries everywhere, including the ones you don't live in. Fuck this Marvel contract. I'm too small in the tier and can't negotiate a better one for you. Those in control, those whose work pull, please work for the rest of us. This is so long. Um, DC isn't far from them because, after all, they are a conglomerate of things owned by WB doesn't help your argument. But when I ask for things, DC works with me. I've asked Marvel for like, I swear, $75 page raise in the past 15 years. The minimum wage in California is doing better than them. Probably in a decade, even that asshole Trump will do better than Marvel give it in a month. I don't even need that shitty Trump change, but I want to see how cheap they are. All this equaling maybe a royalty. That's the please, sir. Can I have maybe 15 cents after you've made your thousand? In things. No response. So what am I treading carefully for again? I seriously forget.
Is
That's the
he
inciting ramble.
is he asking for minimum page rates on overseas stuff? Like what was that bit there that he was asking for, Sean? If you knew,
I mean, I can only interpret
it
what
is
he's
a bit of a
saying,
ramble. Yeah,
and I think he is saying that they take what you did, they pay you one fee,
Yeah.
and they take what you did, and then they use it all across the
I see.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, I read the Zoe Thorogood part of it, which we'll get to, but that makes sense. Man, I remember seeing this. You ever do that thing where like you wake up, your alarm goes off, you check your phone to turn your alarm off, which means you're on your phone for another 15 minutes. And I opened Instagram, and this is the first thing I saw. And I was like, what the fuck happened last night? Like, I woke up to this, and I'm like, I think I sent it to you guys on Instagram. Like, yo, what? But it really was the first domino and a whole bunch of other falling dominoes later on for, creators finding this as a good point to talk about this.
Yeah. Good. Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. Nail him to the wall, Dustin. And everybody else.
I'm gonna come out the gate and get this part out of the way. I don't love the way he did this. I think that there is a way to make this point. Clearly, to Dustin's credit, he has tried and tried with Marvel, um, to get a pay raise and based on what he says, presumably argue and go to bat. for other artists to see that pay increase and that hasn't happened. And so he is clearly frustrated. This kind of rant only comes from a person who is frustrated and gassed and tapped out. But I still think that this isn't getting the message across to the people that it matters to get it across to. Um, and a lot of people will see this. Obviously, a ton of creators have seen it, a ton of fans will see it. And I just think that, there's a more constructive way to make this point.
I,
It sounds to me like he's tried. And at a certain point, if you want the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? Like if you are asking for attention and you're not getting the attention you need, that's going to lead to a blow up. It just is. And, if that's a couple swear words, then, I again, I'm this is things going to be very one sided on my end. I think he's in the right completely.
I mean, I kind of do too. If you have grievances, grieve them. Air the grievances. It doesn't need to be Festivus to do that.
And I don't like language shouldn't matter.
The only language thing I'll give for Amir is that a little bit of it is unclear, and I would just like clarity on
meaning.
Yeah. Well, like okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
That means something to all the artists. But if this is just for artists, then sure. But I'm kind of curious now. I'd like to know.
My problem is that I remember when Greg Capullo said a very small, tiny fraction of this, and he got dogpiled. So I
It's
think
different.
if it's good for the goose, yeah, the situation is different, but people were upset with the language that Capullo chose to use. And I think, hey, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, and if it's not, it's not. And so that's where I come down on it. I don't want this to be the point of the conversation, though, but that's my feeling.
Yeah, the language is one's targeted towards a person, one's targeted towards a corporation, which isn't a person.
I figured you would say that, but he said, fuck everyone at Marvel I don't work with.
Yeah, cool. Great.
Yeah.
Good. Now that we've established hypocrisy, we can move the conversation forward.
I
Atomic Hal
I
with
don't
a
think there
10
is.
spot. That was so epic that future rants should be rated on the Nguyen scale akin to the Richter scale for earthquakes. Well, it did cause a seismic shift. But the problem is that I don't think that it matters that he said this in the sense that, like, Marvel's not going to change anything based on this rant.
No,
No, it just means he won't get work.
but they weren't going to change anything when he asked nicely either.
Yeah.
That is exactly right.
I think the only thing this does is that it makes people wary of maybe working with them. Even then, probably not, because Marvel's they're looking on a global scale. There will be a hungry artist that will take that job that they can pay that rate for, which is the shitty part of capitalism. And I don't begrudge any young artist or up and coming artist to take that either.
I think. Well, I guess I'll read a few more creator comments and then jump in the fray, because a lot of people have come out to comment on this. This was a very, very hot button topic, as you can imagine. So Sean Gordon Murphy, who you guys will know for the Batman White Knight stuff and a lot of other things, said, seconded, this is why I'm more loyal to DC. I recently found out I've been blacklisted from Marvel for around 10 years. I tried to fix it without much success. Maybe if I offered to cut my DC rate by 1/3 and take a third tier title for a few years, they'd consider hiring me.
Maybe they'll fix the rates when you fix that damn door.
um, Zoe Thorogood popped in as well. This one was pretty frustrating to read.
Yeah.
The only time I worked with Marvel was for a character design. They paid me $100 LMAO, but I thought it would be cool just to have it done, so I agreed. They then, without my knowledge, used my concept art as a cover with zero compensation, and I got so much hate for it because it was not cover art. It was a $100 sketch.
She
That's
charges
bullshit.
more. She charges more at a convention. This was just a love of the game thing that she thought she could, put a little stamp in a universe. Be damned how much money you get from it. It'd be cool. And then like I looked this up, and there's so many like other YouTube channels when this had come out being like, oh, this is the state of Marvel's art these days. Come on, like she caught a stray there, and I think it's good, but it is design work. It's to focus on the design of the costume, not the character work. So that is a shitty situation. That seems like legalese to get around not paying an artist for a cover.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did Zoe really dirty with that, and frankly, I don't know if it's shadiness or not even giving a fuck. Um, I think you could apply malice there if you want to. I think either way is fucked up. I think they don't even care. They own it. What like it's important to understand. Just because Zoe Thorogood did a sketch for Marvel, like once she does that sketch, they own that sketch. So they could do whatever they want with it. They could come to my house and draw and have somebody fucking draw it on the wall, right? They own it. And so they go in a drawer knowing that they've got this event coming up and they say, hey, we've got this sketch from Zoe Thorogood that she did. Her name's kind of blowing up right now. Let's use it.
It's not just her too. This is a whole series of design sketch covers. So they have the rights to these designs, similar to it would be in the back matter of a collected thing that I don't think the artist would then get a page rate for. You know, they have the rights, so they can use it probably. There's no, is it wrong morally? Probably, yeah. Yeah, you're screwing someone out of money. But legally, no. I mean, they probably have the right to do this. They own this thing.
Yeah, they definitely have the right to do it. It's just that's crazy. And again, you're right that Zoe did get thrown under the bus,
Mhm.
big time because I vaguely remember this cover, and her getting crap for it. It's like that's not good. That's fucked up.
And I think Marvel, that's the problem here. Marvel does whatever they want to do. You're right. They own it. The problem is that Zoe took the hit.
Yep.
And that's not fair. That's bullshit.
Now when I first Googled that art, I was like Zoe Thorogood Marvel design cover. YouTube thumbnail showed up, and like that's what she has to deal with.
Yep. Is our shitty fucking
For yeah,
YouTube thumbnails.
yeah, from someone who just wanted to do something cool and fun. You know,
Yeah, it's really, really fucked up. Yannick Paquette said Marvel has been taking advantage of its almost monopoly of mainstream comics for years. Everybody pays me better for a cover. DC, Boom, Image, Dark Horse, Oni, and some Joe starting a Kickstarter. Marvel is dead last. Their argument is that the original art would sell better, and they are right, of course, but the original sale revenue is mine. We fought for this, and paying under the market is their way to claw back at this extra revenue.
that's the most bullshit reasoning for not paying. Like if I can get a Unique Paquette cover for my comic that doesn't exist, and those people typically pay more than Marvel, that's insane. Knowing the coffers that Marvel has, and I know the publishing side of Marvel Comics does not have Disney money. They have more than most comic book publishing, more than probably all comic book publishing money, though.
Jason Sean Alexander, who I know from Spawn, I
Spawn, yeah.
think. No. Yeah, Spawn,
Yep,
yeah.
you're right.
My Marvel experience was a joke, and DC has only been marginally better. But they're currently screwing me on my own book. LOL. No need to be polite anymore. That's how we got here. Artist timidity. Fuck those guys.
Yeah,
And,
fuck yeah.
and that's for Frostbite, right?
I don't know.
I think there's a book that he has that Frost at Marvel's. Is it like their creator own imprint? I think it was something called Frostbite. So it's not just a cover; it's like an actual book for him.
J.H. Williams III said, "You've lit a firestorm, got your back." Rob Liefeld chimed in saying that he would hire Dustin Nguyen for a
Hold
cover.
on now.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. This guy saw his biggest enemy getting beat to shit, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna throw a couple kicks in too."
Yeah, Rob Liefeld is on the war path against Marvel
yeah.
right now. Like, he took Brave New World's like underperformance in theaters and made that a personality. If you go on his Twitter, like
Yep.
50% is sucking his own dick, and then the other 50% is trying to chop off Marvel's. Like, he is all in on anti-Marvel.
Choppy choppy is pee-pee. Jeez.
It's rough. Rough out here.
It's working for Rob though, so.
Hey, at least Rob probably pays. I don't know.
Rob's probably getting more from the Twitter engagement than he is from Marvel.
That's mostly true, probably, yeah. Those X payouts, they used to be better. You just got to sleep with Elon, though, to get a good payout.
This is a lot of artists, and if you go to Dustin Nguyen's page, those were only the ones that Bleeding Cool curated. Those comments that I read off. There are a lot more, a lot from artists, but also a lot from people who are industry adjacent, like fans and stuff like that. There are also comments from editors. Heather Antos jumped in the fray there. She talked about how poor her pay was, and she's been fairly open about
Yep.
that since she left Marvel. That pay was a big reason why she couldn't stay there anymore. And I've really never heard anything other than Marvel doesn't pay well. Like, at least since I've been an active behind the scenes observer of comics.
You're not wrong. I think Heather even talked about that when she was on the show, years back. Jeez. And even going Glassdoor for Marvel, you can see that the pay is not equal to what the cost of living is in the city that the job is in, which is Manhattan. So though, most people probably can't live without a roommate or, some form of second income to stay in an apartment in New York City. It's rough. And there's job market right now is kind of crazy as is, but it's a shame to see what should be one of the cornerstones of the industry, and is one of the cornerstones of the industry, not pay the actual workers that make them the cornerstone of the industry.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that going forward. Matt Fisher with the 199. Thank God Cale's here. The voice of reason. The voice of reason.
The wildest thing anybody's ever spent $2 to say about me.
Oh, shit. Comic Book History says, look at Peach, Moko. Would her art be so hot if Marvel didn't give her a chance? I mean, I don't know. Peach is pretty talented in her own right. And it's
Yeah.
not like artists don't get over outside the big two. I think part of why they wanted Peach so bad and why they snatched her up is because her art was already popular.
Yeah.
You can see that with the Zoe Thorogood example.
Yeah, Zoe's
Right.
not famous for Marvel work. I mean,
Yeah.
she might be infamous for Marvel work, but her actual stuff that people know her for is not Marvel. Exposure doesn't pay the bills.
I mean, if to me, it's just that it's just not true that they didn't get big because of Marvel. If they got big because of Marvel, we could say that, but that just didn't happen.
Marvel
Like, they got
snagged
big
them. Yeah.
They got big and Marvel came knocking.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get those likes up. Hayden's Hideout is right. 101 people watching and 41 likes. Shaking my head. Yeah, let's get that up. Let's get that
Damn,
up.
what do y'all work for Marvel? Cheapskating us? Get them
Where's
likes up.
where's Mr. DC Comics here? Your ops is getting beat up here. Let's join in. And
All right.
and I think somebody mentioned here like Marvel haters in the chat. I don't hate Marvel. Like, big picture, I'm a Marvel head. Marvel Comics is my bread and butter. It's what I love. What I hate is people who can't live their lives when they're working as much as they can. So that's what I hate. I hate shitty practices that seem to be put in practice by someone like Marvel Comics. Something like Marvel Comics.
I just hate a corporation. I hate the corporation that signs my paycheck. I hate the corporation that signs my wife's paycheck.
You hate corporations so much, you didn't even like X-Corp.
I hate the one I'm in right now. It's a principle. I can't help it.
You guys in chat are so fucking funny. 3 people in a row said this is a Marvel podcast. Like, what is wrong with you?
Well, this week it might be.
All right. The Urban Nerd says, does paying people more ensure better quality? I disagree, depending on application of funds. Yeah, of course that doesn't guarantee it. Definitely not. I mean, I don't think like paying people more doesn't guarantee quality when you can hire the best possible person for the job instead of hiring based on like who's going to accept the least, then it could affect quality, right? Like I don't look at Marvel's artists and say, wow, these people suck. I think Marvel has a lot of great artists. But there are higher tier artists. I don't mean that to denigrate anybody, but there are people that we would love to see draw from Marvel who won't draw from Marvel because Marvel won't pay them. And so the Dustin Wens of the world, for example, who does wonderful interiors, we're never going to see those at Marvel. So in a certain way, you could make that argument, but not like it's not like if you paid, let's say, Pepe Larraz. That's a bad example. I'm sure he's one of the highest paid artists at Marvel. It's not like if you said we're going to pay you a lot more money that you would suddenly get better work. I'm sure Pepe Larraz puts his ass into everything he does.
No, but paying artists more money ensures a better relationship with that artist, which then could increase the quality.
Well,
just in terms of consistency.
Paying people better lets them rest. It lets them do better work because they can get what they need.
If they can live and not have to churn themselves in energy, the quality could be better,
So this is a conversation that pops up every few months. I would say about twice a year we have a conversation similar to this where some creator gets really mad and, says something on social that then brings out a whole bunch of other creators to agree, and we get a conversation like this. I think we can all agree that it sucks that this is the way that it is. I don't think there's anybody happy to know that artists are being underpaid. And let's be honest, right? Over the last 20 years, the last 10 years, because I think the 2000s were pretty good to comics, there has been a contraction. And the industry has felt it. Creators have felt it. Right now, today, the big two subtracted 2 pages from mainstream comics. 22 to 20. What that means is that we, the fans, we're paying the same amount of money for 2 less pages a book. And what that means for creators, what a lot of people don't think about, is that they're being paid for 2 less pages. And that is a pay cut. In a roundabout way, but it is a pay cut. If Marvel is paying you $500 a page as an artist, and you're drawing 2 less pages a book, that means that every book you do, you're getting paid $1,000 less. Yes, you are drawing less than you were before, but that doesn't matter because as an artist, you can really only do 1 book anyway. So if you were doing 22 pages of Daredevil before and you're doing 20 pages of Daredevil now, the amount of free time you have doesn't change because it's a conveyor belt. You're simply being paid less.
There's no book that's like, hey, you want to do 2 pages on this book? Almost like a jam issue of Immortal Thor or something. That sucks. And Marvel's still getting the same amount of money.
They're getting more. They're raising prices.
That's true, because they're not having to pay anyone, and they're getting, so in a roundabout way, they're getting more money.
And they're also they're producing less pages, so they're paying less people for those pages, and we are paying more. So like it's a way for them to bring their pay what they're paying out down and what they're bringing in slightly up. And look, we could say all day, we could all say fuck Marvel. Everybody in chat could type fuck Marvel. We could all yell it at the top of our lungs. That doesn't change the business realities that Marvel faces that we don't know about. If the industry is struggling and there is a problem of Marvel, DC, Diamond, whoever being able to bring in the money that requires them to function, at least in their mind, right? What is the solution to that problem? And if they can't figure out a way to solve that problem, then what happens? Who loses? Marvel will never say, okay, we're going to lose. That's just not what business does, right? And however we feel about that is immaterial. It doesn't matter. That's not what business does. So what do we do?
We as in us?
We, just human beings, people who care about this issue.
Well, okay. So in your scenario, I think Marvel has to admit somehow the problem. You know, if it's that there's no marketing budget, I'm throwing shit at the wall here. They have to say, well, we don't have people to market this stuff. If it's paper shortage, you know, in China where they get the printing stuff, they should say it's a paper shortage. Sorry. Like we need, like if it's a higher up issue, they have to be honest about that, because like there's no accountability here.
And it could very well be not a Marvel issue, but a Disney issue too, where their allocation of what they have to spend on is less as a publishing line, in terms of like Disney's profits for the year. Which I'd argue there's probably a guy at the top that can use a little less money that can maybe help across the board, but that ain't happening.
I don't think it's a surprise. I don't think it's completely unfair to say that there is a relationship between the fact that the MCU, or excuse me, that Disney purchased Marvel in 2008 and that wages for creators have gone down since then. That's it's not crazy to me to draw to draw those things together. There likely is a correlation. There very well may be. But regardless of that, this is an industry that has notoriously underpaid artists. And I would honestly stretch that out and say, tell me the industry that doesn't underpay artists. This is a problem that we have historically as humans not found a way to solve.
There are industries now that are coming up as a way to replace artists as well. So, yeah, you're not wrong.
And what do we do? Let's see if go ahead.
It's fucking tricky because like the only thing we can do, we as in, you know, comic book YouTubers, the smallest piece of the pie in anything here, or even like artists, is to kind of just shed light on it. And if there's, you know, daylight on it, people are aware of it, they can make some decisions that might affect things. Because the only thing they can really do is make decisions with their wallet. So if these things are, if you find these things morally reprehensible, maybe you don't buy Marvel comics, or you buy less, or you put that money into independence. You follow Dustin Nguyen's Descender Ascender series instead, where they get more of that cut. We can really only do so much as fans and consumers, because this will continue happening, because this is how the game is played with money and businesses and corporations. That is by design. Number must go up so guy at top can have more money. Sure, there's trickle down and there's, you know, other things. No, not really any trickle down. But this is how it's supposed to be. It's made this way. And the only thing we can really do is make more comics ourselves. Really.
Bat Marlowe with the $10. Thank you so much, Bat. And this is your first super on a live stream. I appreciate the fact that you chose to spend it with us. Even though I don't read comics anymore, I still like to know what's going on in the world of comics. I really enjoy your discussions. Why? Because you're not idiots. You know, Bat, that's the kindest thing anyone's ever said to me. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I have to add a little tag to the logo now, because we're not idiots.
Tell that to our comments section.
I love them.
Tell that to the chat.
Tell
Again?
that. Yeah. Tell it to the chat. Let's look at the facts of the industry, right? Over the last 10 years, we've seen the rise in the increase of the cost of paper. We've seen that go up even more post-COVID. We're on the verge of. Go ahead.
Sorry, to add to that, the paper shortage. There was a massive paper shortage. That was a fact that crippled the publishing industry across the board. Manga, books, everything.
And is it fair to say? I think that of the businesses that rely on paper as a form of entertainment, I got to imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that comic books are the most expensive to produce.
Probably American comic books, yeah. I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how you would look that up, but magazines, maybe.
They are bigger format. Quality of paper is better on magazines usually. Maybe magazines, a dying medium essentially.
Wow.
The reason why I suggest comics is because of all the people you have to pay to make them. That's why I said that. So if that's true, right? If you have those things happening, paper shortage, rise of paper costs, all these things, and then you also have on the other end of that economic problems, people choosing to buy comics less for whatever their reasoning is. How does the industry continue to function under those constraints? I'm not trying to make an excuse. Like, understand this. I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm trying to broaden the conversation beyond Marvel sucks, fuck them. Because that doesn't get anything done. That's not compelling for us. It's not compelling for you to hear. If these are the realities, then what happens? If you're going to boycott comics, or rather, if you're going to boycott Marvel, if your idea is I'm not going to support Marvel, Marvel's exploiting the worker, fuck them. You need to boycott the entire comics industry. Understand it. They're all exploiting people. What do you mean no?
Independent publishing is where you can go.
You talking about Boom? You talking about Image? You talking about Dark Horse? Because they all have accusations.
I would say I would lean Image, but Image also has a better percentage of the pie, and that's where it's easier to get, say, a Dustin Nguyen book. You have to go where those creators are putting their product out, in a place that's opposite to where they are.
And I would lean on the creators for their guidance on this too.
Yeah.
I don't want to boycott Image Comics if it screws them over, because that might be the only place they really get money.
Guys, Image don't you remember when that group, the Image workers, tried to unionize and Image got rid of them?
But again, that was a different situation because those were Image employees, not the Image artists.
Oh, okay. So fuck the employees.
Well, I mean, that's not what I said.
Well, what are you saying?
I just told you what I'm saying. Support the creator in the place they want you to support them.
Here's an example.
All right, take it
easy. In New York, the New York area, Alamo Drafthouse is having a worker strike for the movie theater, Alamo Drafthouse movie theaters in Brooklyn and Manhattan, because they laid off like 70 people unceremoniously. And they don't want you going there. But they're not saying don't go to Alamo Drafthouse. You can go to the one up in Yonkers. Their workers are fine. They're not saying fuck the company, because then you're fucking over people who do need money. You know, the people at that draft house need tips and all that, and help them out. But you need to kind of pinpoint where your strike is, in a way. I'm not going to say screw Dustin Nguyen across the board and not buy his creator-owned book that does make him money just because I don't like Marvel's practices. Does it suck it's across the board? Yes, but you kind of need to be tactical about where you put your money.
All I was trying to say is that if exploitation is your problem, the comics industry has literally always had an exploitation problem. That is what I'm saying.
We can't argue with that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
I know,
but it
that's
doesn't.
what I'm confused about.
But it
That's all I
doesn't
was
mean
saying.
you tear down everyone else in the same way. You know what I mean? Like, because if you do that, then they just say, "Oh, capitalism's exploitative. Let's just burn that down," which I don't disagree with.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but
Well, then what are we doing?
why are we on YouTube then? Like, you have to just be. You have to still work in the margins as much as it sucks. You still have to work in the margins of what the reality of the situation is. In terms of, like, we still live in this, we still live in this society that works in a certain way.
Exactly. That is the exact point. So if boycotting is not the answer, right? Because clearly if you want to boycott, I mean anyone can boycott anything they want to. But if you're specifically worried about exploitation, comics is a hard industry to support because that is what is present in comics. I personally, and we've reported on the show many times about artists being exploited all around the industry. Not just today, but historically. So how do we manage ourselves in a system like that? How do we manage our support? How do we manage?
And I think absolute overthinker here didn't overthink this one. He said, "Okay, Sean, everyone agrees on that, but there is a scale of exploitation, and supporting the least exploitative part of the industry would be potentially the best move we could make to impact change." And it's like a don't throw the baby out with the bathwater situation, you know? Like, we recognize it is an exploitative industry, comics as a whole. We can then focus that boycott or potential. There's no boycott in Marvel right now. There's none. Although I think there might be with Disney as a whole, but
There's always one with Disney as well.
yeah. There's something not to deal with that. But, like, you can focus your efforts in a way that could potentially enact change.
And figure drawing has had some crazy takes through the chat, but this one I agree with. We don't manage. It's beyond our control. The only thing I can think of is tipping creators directly. And that's it. I mean, if I could walk up to Dustin Nguyen and buy a comic from him so that I know where that money's going, that's what I would do. And that's what conventions are for.
But Cale, you can't go to the convention because that's owned by a corporation as well. It's Repop.
Well, but I mean,
I know.
There are a lot of indie and especially smaller creators who go to, town fairs, what's it?
Like book fairs,
garage sales, not book fairs, markets. Like,
Markets,
like
what?
a farmer's market type thing,
Okay.
where, local people go out and they put out a table and they, sell their stuff.
It's a one-to-one exchange. There's no
Yeah.
middleman. You know exactly where that's going. Yeah.
The Urban Nerd says the beauty of capitalism, we have a bunch of rules on ours, but still is that our power is us choosing to buy a service or product versus quota systems like socialism. Yeah, we can choose to buy this stuff or to not buy this stuff. Um, I, I I don't know. It's tough. Let's shift the conversation. So Rick Remender is one of my favorite creators. He did a lot of Marvel work. He was famous for indie stuff prior to Marvel, left Marvel, notoriously to bet on himself, and it's been a pretty good bet so far. Giant Generator is his imprint under Image, and they have been able to do a lot of great work there. And so he put out a statement um, the other day in reference to what's been going on, and he showed it's an image that has a bunch of his books on it, and the artist that he's working with. And on the top, it says "Creator Owned or Die." It's got a teaser image of something he's working on with Steve Epting, Daniel Acuna, Andre Araujo, Greg Ticini, Yannick Paquette. Just incredible, incredible artists. But Rick also had this to say: comics are better when they are owned by the people who make them. Heartless, profit driven corporations do not love you. Allowing them to control the blood of your labor is a short term game that leaves you with nothing in the end. It is better to play great music to an intimate audience than to feed bullshit to an auditorium. I am dedicated to making great comics owned by the people who create them. I will die on this hill. Giant Generator Wave 3 is underway exclusively at our wonderful home, the most dedicated publisher to the promise of pure creator owned comics, Image Comics. A small teaser of the next line of amazing books I co created, and he points out all of the artists that he has worked with. Rick Remender, not one to let a good crisis go to waste, uses this opportunity to restate his commitment to indies, but also to say, hey, come to Giant Generator.
I mean, he's paying his artists. You know, he got to be pretty damn well too, because look at the lineup of artists he has here. These are guys who were at Marvel. You know, Ticini was on Uncanny X-Force. Acuna was on Uncanny Avengers. Araujo was on Miss Marvel, I think. But like they've all been there. They've all been at the big two. And like Epting, huge one. They know where they can get more for their buck here. And like, sure, there's also the added benefit, like, oh, they have full rights control over these characters, and they can maybe get those residuals if these things become movies or TV shows. So that is appealing as well. And like, I appreciate Rick Remender because he doesn't mince words. He is to the point. So this is there's a part of me that's like, oh, you're going to use this as a way to advertise your shit. But the other part of me was like, hey, fuck it. Go for it. Because at least the people are happy here.
But yeah, but he's paying him. So
Yeah, I mean, I love what he said. I think that, he's putting his money where his mouth is. Rick Remender said, I don't like the money I'm making. I'm out of here. I'm going to go make more money for me and my collaborators elsewhere. And he got it done. And I respect the fuck out of that because, he's not sitting around bitching about what he doesn't have. He said, I'm going to go get it. And he got it. He's talented enough to make it happen. He doesn't need Marvel or DC, so he's not using them. And he's telling other artists to do the same. That's in the spirit of Robert Kirkman. It's in the spirit of the original Image founders. That is what you do. Like Dustin Nguyen's statement doesn't move me. Rick Remender's action moves me. I don't care much for the, oh, fuck Marvel. I care for the, oh, I don't like how Marvel's paying me. I'm going to go get it done, and I'm going to bet on me.
Isn't that what Dustin Nguyen's saying too, in a roundabout way?
No, he's making DC money.
He's making money where they're going to pay him more, and Marvel pays him poorly.
I'm sure, well, we're talking about creator-owned versus, betting on yourself versus not. That's what I'm talking about. So I don't think Dustin Nguyen is doing that. I think Dustin Nguyen is taking corporate money, and I think Rick Remender said, fuck that. I'm going to go get mine, and I'm going to make it happen on my own, too. That's what I think.
but Dustin Nguyen is also pointing at the other company that is treating him right. He's saying this company actually, does better. So go there.
Yeah, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like,
because Rick was doing the same thing with Giant Generator. He's saying, "Hey, listen, we'll do that. Come here."
Yeah. And Rick did the same thing years ago when he left Marvel.
But it's creator owned. All I'm trying to say is creator owned is obviously clearly better for the creator than not creator owned if we're talking about ownership and we're talking about the ability to make money in perpetuity. I was making a statement about me. I think personally, me, that Dustin Nguyen is not betting on himself, that Rick Remender is betting on himself.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I mean, so we've got a lot of great books coming from Rick Remender's camp, but this is what happens when you are reliant on the big two and you are reliant on however they're going to treat you. And I promise this is not, I'm not trying to use this for just content purposes. This is definitely something that we need to be concerned about as a people. This is the end result, or it can be the end result. Peter David. Peter David, right now has been in poor health. He's been in poor health for years. Um, and he had a GoFundMe that was up that we all had to support because, he's struggling right now deeply. Um, they recently had to put it back up. His wife had to put it back up because his Medicaid was cut off. There's a 2-year limit in terms of how long you can benefit from Medicaid, I guess, or the money runs out at some point. And so they hit that limit, and Peter needs help again. Peter David is one of the most prolific comic book writers we've ever had. His name has graced maybe every publisher. He's done something almost everywhere that I could think of.
Not,
And he's
and,
been extremely loyal when it comes to Marvel over the years. And now the guy is sitting in, you know, I don't want to say this, but what could be his deathbed, right? And now he is being supported, not exclusively, but largely by the kindness of strangers.
I mean, this just speaks to the great American healthcare system that is GoFundMe.
Right.
And this is Bill Mantlo all over again. Like the creator of Rocket Raccoon. He as Marvel was putting out Guardians of the Galaxy movies with a multi Oscar nominated actor in the role of Rocket Raccoon, his creation, this guy died in a hospital with no money to even be able to support that. You know, he had to be put into the guardianship of some relative. It's fucking horrible. Like, it's one of the horrible parts of work for hire work is that you don't get that. You know, you don't get a pension. You don't get you don't get health care. You know, you have to get it yourself. And soon enough, you won't have Social Security the way things are going.
And there's no comic book company across the board.
No.
Not Europe, not Japan, certainly not North America that does that. Period.
I always forget his name because it's a different language. I apologize. But the creator of Berserk died in Japan.
At the table.
At the table. You know, he didn't have any of that, reinsurance with healthcare or stuff like that. I mean, it'd be nice if we had universal stuff in the U.S., but that's not what we have.
Yeah, this is fucked up. And we've seen, like you guys pointed out, we've seen this before. We'll see it again. It's a guarantee. We shared the link in the chat for Peter's GoFundMe. Hopefully people support it. But this isn't our job. This isn't our job. This is the job it should be the job of his employer. And unfortunately, he's not. I mean, I don't know what Marvel's doing behind the scenes, but I haven't heard. Kathleen, his wife, didn't say that, they're receiving all kinds of help and support. It's hard to believe that someone who has done as much as Peter David has is in a position where he needs to come to us to ask him for this kind of help. I mean, right now, they've raised $62,000 out of $100,000 goal. That's a lot of money we've directly put in his pocket. That's only going to go to his health situation.
And this is a guy who is at every convention. This guy has shaken so many hands and talked to so many people. He's usually there with his granddaughter, I think, is the way I've seen it in the past couple years. Like I know there was some issues a couple years back and some comments he made, but all in all, he seems like a pretty approachable, nice enough guy.
Mm.
Maybe of a time, but generally a good person. So it just sucks to see this happen. You know, Marvel will probably tackle a Maestro at some point too, and this guy won't get any of that, even though he created that iteration of the Hulk, which is an iconic thing.
Well, and he's had his hands in so many pots and characters, and like it's insane that any company would dare call him a freelancer.
Go ahead, Tyler.
It's the same issue in wrestling too. That's another industry where those people literally put their bodies on line. They don't get paid healthcare. Some do. If you're on the top echelon, I think some do, but most don't. Especially not the indie people. And I'm saying most don't at WWE. So it's just those when they're like Sean, what's the term they use there too? It's not freelancer, it's
Shit, I can't remember. I can't remember. But
yeah.
if you go through WWE's doctors, you do get free, you know, checkups or whatever it is you need. So it's a little bit of a different situation.
That's what they need too. What the WWE needs to keep you going too.
Yeah. Independent contractor. Yeah,
that's
thank
the word.
you, Julia.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's really brutal, and it's sad to have to watch Jobber. Jeremy Kulo, yeah, you could definitely say that. Um, it's sad to watch this happen, especially when it's a creator who's given us so much. You know, you want to give back and you want to, like, there's a part of you that wants to believe, like, hey, Peter David's doing great and he can ride off into the sunset and, you know, live off the fruits of his labor. And that's just not true. If you've made your bank at the big two and your name isn't Scott Snyder or I don't know, take your pick, right, of the top creators, you might not be able to die gracefully. That might not be a reality. You might not get to your old age and get to sit in your rocking chair with your grandkids and do nothing. That very well likely won't be the case for you.
Yeah, even those like top tier creators, they have to do that themselves. They need to put money into savings. They need to put money into stocks. They need to put money into a 401k. No, like maybe they'll get a social security, even though they are getting money taken out across the board for social security that they might not ever see, especially these younger creators now. It's shit. It's shit because it's also like, all right, how does somebody in comics save that money if they don't even have enough to live week to week? You can't save. So then you mentioned Larry Hama or somebody did in the chat. You're working until you can't work anymore. Physically, you can't work anymore.
Well, and I'll tell you the best way for a comic book creator to get any sort of insurance, to have a spouse with a real job.
Yeah.
That
You
dink
better
lifestyle.
hope your wife's you better hope your wife's a doctor.
Whose wife literally is a doctor?
I think it's Scott Snyder.
Okay.
Hell yeah, brother. So the trick to being a successful comic book creator is marry rich.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Figure drawing says, I guess one of the takeaways regarding to this topic is to ideally create your own IP, which again is not easy, but it does happen. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Like, because on the other hand, you could also say, you know, who has been able to successfully branch off from the big two, do their own thing, and make, really good money in comics. Obviously, you have your Rick Remenders, you have your Brubakers and Sean Phillips, these creative teams that have gone elsewhere and made livelihoods out of it. I'm not talking about doing an indie book. Obviously, anybody can do that. Making a livelihood off of doing creator-owned work can be challenging. And you are faced with Marvel's paycheck or DC's paycheck may not be as much, but at least I can rely on it in the sense that it's guaranteed, it's coming my way, I do work, I get paid, that kind of thing. It is a very, very difficult question that a creator has to ask themselves about which direction to go.
And especially in the year of our Lord 2025, imagine how many good artists, comic book artists, are out there right now. How many good comic book writers are out there right now that cannot produce that work? They're unknowns because they need to work. They need to put food on the table. They need to pay the rent. They need to keep the lights on. They don't have the ability or time or energy, spoons, if you will, to be able to produce that stuff. So, yeah, it's great for Rick Remender to be able to do Giant Generator, and for all those artists who kind of cut their teeth elsewhere to finally be in a place where they own more of a chunk and have some agency with their art. But newer creators, that is near impossible. Because like as much as I would love to write, create my own comic. I went to school for writing. It's hard for me because I work 40 hours a week. I do the show. I edit. I create stuff for the show. Like my energy goes elsewhere and I can't create. And like I am just a microcosm of all the other artists and creators out there. I'm sure there are image writers and artists. You'd be like, oh, I wonder where that guy is. Probably working a desk job now.
Yeah. Or in TV.
Yeah, or in TV, yeah. Even then, tumultuous.
I work in comics and I've got 2 other jobs.
Yeah.
This is what Rob Guillory had to say about this issue. And he gives a specific example of his own life. He created Chew. One of the people who created Chew. And he's done some Marvel stuff and things like that. He did Titans as well for DC. He said this, he made this statement better than I can, and I really, really like what he had to say, but I'm going to let him say it so that I don't get yelled at. He said this: I've seen a lot of chatter online about decreasing page rates and bad contracts in Marvel and DC. Here's the thing. Yes, their rates are not great. And yes, they do seem to be decreasing. I can confirm this from numerous creators and personal experience. And yes, the standard Big 2 contract is what I would call a bad deal for the average comic creator who isn't in the rare position to negotiate for more. I hit this realization a few years back after a very nice editor from the Big 2 offered me a gig revamping one of their characters. It's a well-known character, and frankly, I was flattered to be considered. The 9-year-old in me felt very affirmed, seeing the very same company logo from my childhood now on an email in my inbox offering me work. But then, the 42-year-old me considered the actual terms of the deal, which I can't totally share. But the gist is that I'd have the task of bringing my talents to this sagging character in hopes that I could resuscitate him and make him cool again. In exchange, I'd get a meh page rate and maybe some residuals if it sold well. And meanwhile, the company would own my work and could make it into a billion-dollar franchise if they played their cards right. Of course, the company would have no obligation to actually pay me anything more for the adaptation, but if I was lucky, maybe I'd get a special thanks credit at the end of the movie. Lucky me. In the end, 42-year-old me decided it was a bad deal that made absolutely no sense, especially after years of creator-owned work had taught me that the real money wasn't actually owning the thing I was making. So I politely passed and continued making stuff that I own and control. So yeah, I think the Big 2 deal is a bad deal. Doesn't mean that the people at these companies are bad people. It just means that I think creators give way more than they get in return in these contracts. So what can creators do about that? Easy. Stop taking the deal. Seriously, if you really feel these deals unfairly leverage creators without meaningfully compensating them, don't work for these companies. Go find a better outlet for your art. It's that simple. Is it that simple?
And I think that's what's happening right now. You know, we always talk about how Marvel specifically is not, making household names anymore because those people aren't taking those deals anymore, and they're just going elsewhere for it. They're like, how many Italian artists do they have right now? The money goes further there. Every new Marvel book that comes out, the artist has a vowel at the end of their name. Like, it's not to diminish their art. It's good. Vincent Tini, great artist, but Marvel has found a way to get good art from people where the money will go. That money that they're willing to pay someone in the U.S., which is a pittance, can go further, and somebody be more okay with taking that deal. So I would say that people probably aren't taking that deal in the U.S. for Marvel, which is why we're seeing a lot of global artists across the board. A little trickier when it comes to writers because a language thing, but from an art standpoint, it seems like that's what people are doing.
I also think that there is maybe an expectation of being paid. I want to phrase this carefully so that I don't contradict myself. An expectation for being paid for something that's not necessarily quality. And I'm talking generally about, monetizing your hobby. Sometimes it's okay to just be a writer, and you also work at the local toy shop. You're not going to be able to always pay your bills. Yes, this is me telling on myself, Tyler. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Go ahead.
There's, it's an expectation that also kills the spirit and creates, a bitterness. I think it's not that simple, but if you want to write. I forget how that was related to what we were talking about, but I know it was.
You got
when I started.
There was a thread.
I think it's hard. It's important to remember that a lot of people who work for Marvel and DC are super fans. They're not just people looking for work. They're people who want to work there. They're people who probably grew up loving Spider-Man and maybe their dream in life is to draw Spider-Man. And when that's someone's dream in life, they are likely to be willing to accept circumstances that are far less than their ideal in order to accomplish their dream in life. And I respect the hell out of that. But there is a point at which you do have to say, is this worth it? Is it worth it for me to draw Spider-Man 50 times and get paid not what I'm worth, or to go do something that's going to pay me what I'm worth and show me my value? I don't know that I believe that the reason why Marvel is bringing on artists from other countries is because people aren't taking the deal. I think Marvel just knows they can pay people less, and so they are. That's always going to be a reality. There's always someone who's going to take the deal. That's never going to go away. I think it's okay to take the deal. But I don't think it's okay to take the deal and bitch about the deal and continue to take the deal. I think you should go and try to make it happen. I agree with Rob Guillory. But like I said, I think there will always be someone who takes the deal, and I don't begrudge that either. It's a complicated situation.
I think it's fine to bitch about the deal. And I think it's fine to bitch about the hand that gave you the deal. A bad deal's a bad deal.
You still need that money. But yeah, I'm with Cale on this. Like, it's It's not like even Dustin Nguyen is taking the deal anymore. He seems to be saying no deal to that going forward, even though I think there's some covers still solicited out, but that's just the way shit works. I think it's okay to get a poor bargain and be a little ticked off about it, and putting a flashlight to that. It's just saying, hey, this is what I did. Here's how I feel. Make an educated decision for yourselves. I'm going to put that out there because here's the thing: we need to be talking about how much money corporations are paying people now, because they want us to not talk about that. They want that to have no flashlight on it. The more people we have that are open about this and what their page rates are and what these big companies are giving out, the more leverage people have to change that. If it's all a question mark and nobody knows what they're making, nobody knows how to bargain for themselves.
I agree with that. And I think, keeping page rates a secret in comics. I think it was Mark Miller. He's like the only person who really pushed to get that information out there. And there was an article, I don't know, I don't remember the details of it, so I won't speak to it too much, that did talk about the page rates at the big two and how down they are and what they specifically were. But like, yeah, if we're gonna name and shame, let's throw numbers in there. Let's throw numbers in there. That's why I like Zoe Thorogood said she was paid $100. Like, if she had said I was paid a low amount of money, right? We don't know what a cover goes for. We don't know what a sketch goes for. She didn't do a cover, but we don't know what a sketch, what the going rate for a sketch is. When I saw that $100, I had images of CB Cebulski reaching into his fucking wallet. $100, you don't even need to go through a fucking accounting for $100.
There are variant covers that Zoe Thorogood drew that cost more than that.
Right. Absolutely.
Let alone original art and designed. Wild. And like that's one of those people that did it for the love of the game, like you said, Sean. Like, oh, here's a chance that I can do something for Marvel. Marvel can lowball me. She recognized that. She didn't recognize the other thing they could do, which is where she got screwed over.
That what you said is the part that bothers me in that case. Like, the $100 is super low. She agreed to that, and she knew that she understood, like, okay, I'm definitely being underpaid right now. But she was cool with that part. But the other part, that is like, whoa, because I didn't know that you were gonna take this and do all this with it. That's screwed up.
I guarantee you, a cover for Zoe Thorogood would cost at least 10 times that. At least.
Now, yeah, I mean, I don't know what Marvel pays for covers. $6,000 to $7,000 was what Dustin. Go ahead, Cale.
If you're Zoe Thorogood, it's only $100.
I was going to say, you just look at their prices on, that they're selling the original art for, and just think less than that.
There, yeah. Look at their Behance profile and see what commission you could get.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But at the same time, we've had creators speaking about this issue for decades. So what has to change? We know Marvel's not changing. We know that's not going to happen. Is there something that creators have to do? Because fans can't really do shit either. We already talked about the boycott. We're not willing to boycott the entire industry. A Marvel boycott that's unrealistic. So what can creators do?
Get creator-owned books. Ask the creators where they can support you the best. If that's, going their Zelle and zelling them. If that's buying original art. If that's buying their image book because they get enough money from that it supports them, then so be it. It's listening to the people and building community. That's the only thing we could do in situations like this.
Ellie Thompson puts out stuff on her Substack.
Sure, yeah.
And, I haven't looked too hard at this because I haven't, I pay for it and I haven't read it, which is half of my bookshelf's issue. But I'm pretty sure she posts full issues of Black Cloak when they come out on her Substack in, the email.
Like the script or the actual book?
The actual full product.
It's produced there first.
Yeah. So creator newsletters, websites. Kelly has all of her stuff on her website, even her DC work, that you can buy directly from her. And it's stuff and that's a way to support her and circumvent DC at the same time.
It really just boils down to listening to the worker and how to support them.
Yeah. Which
might vary depending on person.
Yeah.
And because it's not comic book creators aren't a monolith. They're freelancers, although you can only really support individual people or build up communities around those people.
Hecatron with the $9.99 says, we are at a point where these bad deals are forcing good creators out of the industry. Readers are being robbed of quality work as much as creators being robbed of a living wage. Leandro Valentine, I think, Bitch Planet artist.
Yeah.
He is super talented. People are looking to have his interiors in comics, but he gets paid a tremendous amount more in animation. And so he needs to prioritize his animation work.
Chris
Grant
Anka
Morrison.
did the same thing.
Sorry?
Chris Anka did the same thing.
Yep.
Chris Anka, Matt Fraction. Matt does a lot of outside comics work because of pay. Brubaker has been making his bones outside of comics. Brian K. Vaughan, Brad Meltzer. They can't even get Brad Meltzer to sit down at the fucking desk to write First Ghost at Ghost Machine because he's a superstar novelist.
He's at a desk writing a different book.
He's writing those kids' books that do amazingly well for him.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's definitely writers and artists who decide to leave the industry to go make money elsewhere, and like put the idea of exploitation of a deliberate exploitation out of your mind for a moment. Let's assume, for the sake of this thought experiment, that Marvel and DC can't compete with, let's say, animation in terms of pay. That's reasonable to believe that they just simply cannot compete with that. If they can't compete with that, if they cannot say to Leandro, hey, we'll match that for you to continue drawing Birds of Prey. If they can't say that, and they'll never be able to say that, and it's not worth it, then is it ever in the best interest of the majority of these people to do comics work after they've made their name? Like, are we just talking about an industry that can't sustain creators by and large, where no matter what the intention is of the publisher, it just isn't a thing we can do?
It's a possibility. I mean, it's one of the downsides of art in an economic structure like this. A lot of artists can't, like I said, can't do the art because it doesn't pay. Look at the way comics works right now. It's either you get big enough somewhere, maybe like a Marvel or DC, you get pretty big. You either go to Image or you leave comics altogether. Or maybe go to Image and then leave comics. Like the end goal never seems to be stay at comics. You could maybe say that for like a handful of people. But it is a churn. That's just the nature of the industry, and it fucking sucks.
This is the other half of what I was talking about last week when we talked about Diamond. When I brought up the fact that maybe this industry doesn't deserve to survive because it can't pay. If you can't, if any other store, if any other enterprise wasn't paying its employees, well, I mean, listen.
Yeah.
Like, why does it get to stay open?
We need more child artists, I think.
Well,
they a little more energy. We can pay them less.
Content will be better.
They have health insurance already through their parents. I think this is the way to go.
Like, just because we like the industry and the industry makes what we like, if they can't pay, what business does it have existing?
And I guarantee you, the same discussion is being had across multiple industries with art, video games.
Of course,
this is a thing across the board.
But it's being discussed in supermarkets.
Yeah, which is what I'm trying to say is that it's not just a comics issue. It is a sustainability of an economic structure issue.
Definitely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I guess it's just that comics don't have a unique problem, but I'm most attached to comics. So I guess that's just the lens that I look at it through. And
So
I don't want to see comics go away. But I do have to question, if we consistently have had like this conversation has been happening for longer than all of us have been alive.
yep.
And it's gonna continue if comics are around after we're dead. So, like, what does that say about comics?
It'll continue in other ways too. Like here's the thing: comics, the idea of comics will never die. That will continue in any form of fashion, whether people are getting paid for it or not. It will be created.
The art.
The art, yes.
Comics, the art.
Yes. If that's a Rick Remender book or it's me drawing panels of anthropomorphized animals,
Yep.
it's still comics art. That will continue across the board. There is a world where Marvel Comics doesn't continue, but the characters continue. I mean, that's the idea of like, I don't know, like super gods and shit. They're the new gods of American myth. But like things might change and might evolve, and it might suck if you like certain things. But that is just the nature in the way this economic structure works is that the art will die first.
So will the people attached to the art.
Sure, yeah. Or, well, I mean, we just got to hope for AI art to get better, right?
No.
I say that facetiously. I know people get.
We've already got it in the chat.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes the thing you like is bad. It's bad.
Yeah,
Like,
the structures that keep it up could be bad. I can like a nice house, but it could be on a horrible foundation, and that house might fall down.
Oh man. Um Hayden Hayden pointed out the article that I was referring to. Um it was a Vice article, and I remember that now. From 2015. That was a long time ago. Feels like
Yeah,
forever
a Vice
ago.
article. What year is it? We're gonna watch Girls later.
2015.
Yeah, exactly. Uh Hayden, can you reshare that? Because I lost it in the stream of chat, but there were page rates in it, and when you look at the page rates, and again, that's 2015, so it's 10 years ago, they're probably not even as high as they were then.
They were out of date last year. Even if they came out with one last year, they're well out of date.
Yeah.
And when you see numbers like that, like the if I remember correctly, the comparison is basically minimum wage. Like when you break it down per hour, like if there's an 8-hour workday, right, and you break out what a person is paid per page, um, the industry standard was minimum or below minimum wage. And, if you're telling me that fucking the artist behind Spider-Man, the biggest character in existence, is being paid minimum wage, that's fucked.
It is fucked, as the ring ding or whatever Tim Tam or the hell Cale has would say as well. They call them chocolate chip Bicky Wikis where you are.
Fucking Oreos, dude.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it is, and that's what sucks. Like Karsten K says, does anyone really want to live in a world without professional comics? I'm serious. Want and the reality are not the same thing. There's a lot of things I want, a lot of things I can't get, and coming to terms with that and maybe trying to find a solution where I can get that is the only thing you really can do.
Marvel wants you to think that you are a king for getting to draw Spider-Man and be paid for it.
Sure, yeah.
And they want everyone else to think that you are a king for getting to draw Spider-Man.
And that goes across the board too. That's not just art.
No,
That's not just
no,
writing.
of course.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's their flagship character. Like, but they also work to hide the page rates so that the general public thinks, oh yeah, this guy's a king. He must be making bank. He gets to draw Spider-Man. But it's not true. And it keeps this cycle going so that, you know, younger people who want to come draw Spider-Man, not even to be the king, they just want to draw Spider-Man. It keeps this cycle going. And it's, you know, it's how they profit off of it. And now that Disney's behind it, it's even worse. You can draw a Spider-Man. You can, right now. You just, look, you can't get paid for it. Like,
sadly, that's more and more becoming the reality. Michael DeFont says, for the people watching, if you can click on the like thumbs up to the channel, it really helps the channel. I hope everyone is doing well on stream and viewers. If not, I hope things get better for you. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that message. Everyone should hit the like button. You know, we are also starving artists, and YouTube pays us based on ad revenue. So if you want to help us out, there are a lot of ways to do that. And I really want to read these page rates off from the Vice article, which is they're actually insane. The survey that they did is from 2015, but the article itself is from 2021. I'm going to refer to that here in just a moment, and I'm going to blow your fucking minds. I guarantee you, you do not know what Marvel pays a writer per page. In fact, what I want to see in the chat right now, you know, we play the stack game on Thursdays. I want to see what you guys think the number is that Marvel paid a writer for a page in 2015. Put those numbers in the chat. And while you do that, I'm going to shout out patreon.com/thecomicspals. That's the way you support us directly. I want to shout out some very amazing people who continue to do that for us every week. We're going to shout out a few of you here right now. We'll get to the rest a little bit later. So I want to give a special shout out to our Pals vs. Legends, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice, Atomic Hound, Starcross Catherine the Stars, the Red Spiral, Spiral Storm, Adam and Bernie the Best Boy, the Spear of Judgment, Jay's Jumbo, Matthew Malice Price, Jalen Jackson, the Sanguine Sorcerer. And I want to thank Pals vs. members, the Night Stalker Harris Stajinsky, Brian Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Marley Manastorm, Slow Flow Dammer, and Christian Uncaged, Always Laughing, the Spear of Justice, Izzy Spears, the Great Destroyer, Hyper Viper 89, Robert Runback Casterback, Pete the Dreamweaver Collins, James Just Jamming Jones, Paul Powerhouse Smith, Andrew the Galaxian Smith, Neon Knight, the Cosmic Avenger, Matthew the Shade, Cosmo, BJ Kicks, the Living Blade, Boss Run, Deer. And I want to say thank you to Michael DeFont, who just joined our Patreon at the introductory tier. Thank you so much for that, Michael.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you. And I appreciate the message that you shared with the chat. Cale, do you want to rattle off some of those numbers?
Sure.
What day is it?
It's going to be quite a sad game. Nier, tragically, I believe, is going to be far from the answer. He's looking at 150 a page. Luna, probably closer, is 15 cents. Ben Loudly says $75. C.W. Gordon says $69. Nice. Cole says 100. Joseph Wolf says $60. Hayden's going to skip appropriately. Robbie Darwish says 10. Jeremy Kulo says 50. Near, closer, says, wait, nah, $50. MD Johnny says 15 cents. Julia Rule says $257. Jack Cloutier says 80. Blubba McFarland says this is sports radio for comics. Love it. Spiral Storm says $666. The devil's number. Ted H says $35. Steve Canera says $75. The Urban Nerd says $150. Turbo Tortilla slapping guac on there with 54. Lucas Holner says 25. Michael Nadeau says 50. Uncanny Suit says $30. Matt Fisher says 234.
And Sean, you're gonna be reading from the Vice article, right?
Yeah,
From the page rates.
yeah. So someone got pretty close, but slightly off. Who said 80? Because that's pretty close. So according to an industry survey from Fair Page Rates, which surveyed 123 creators in 2015, Marvel offered an average rate of $81.43 per page for writers and $372 for line art. DC's breakdown was broadly similar at $111 for writers and $352 for line art. That's very interesting that DC was paying about $30 more than Marvel for writers, but about $20 less for artists. That's interesting.
And that was in 2015.
2015.
Again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then in 2017, there was a creator resource survey that says the average, oh my God, what? The average rate per page for writing at Marvel was 60, and the average page rate for line art was 173. Whoa.
You gotta think an average means there's a bottom.
That suggests, if this is accurate, that suggests that the page rate went down dramatically over the course of 2 years. Wow.
So that was, he said 60 a page for art?
For a writer.
For writer, okay. For writer.
At Marvel compared to $81 2 years prior.
If they can do it, they're gonna, unfortunately.
Wow. I'm going to read a little more. Multiple sources told Motherboard at the time that in the time since those surveys, so from 2015 and 2017 to the time of this article being 2021, not a lot has changed. One artist who asked to remain anonymous because they still work in the industry provided art for a popular licensed IP on a work for hire basis and said that they were paid $170 per page. They said that each page took from 6 to 8 hours. Assuming one kept an 8-hour workday for a full day of work, pay at this rate works out to $21.25 an hour. Because this is work for hire, it means that this artist also has to deal with all the economic difficulties of not having a salary job. Quote, because comics are so labor intensive, it's hard to balance multiple comics gigs. And so often folks have to find alternate revenue sources like Patreon or Twitch or making prints and merchandise, which is still all laborious, or relying on employed partners. And since cons couldn't be a thing during the pandemic, that was also a huge loss of income for a lot of people. This is the same artist. The quote is to the same artist who was willing to share their page rate at $170.
I do think I mean, that's horrible. But I also find some irony in that we're reading this from a Vice News article, and then Vice declared bankruptcy last year for not paying, after not paying their writers livable wage. It's shit across the board. And like, I'm trying to math this out on the side here. Because every comic book writer that I know, those guys they're not just working 40-hour work weeks. Like, sure, that might be the art of it all, but like you said, there's so much beyond that. They're marketers, they're social media people at the same time. They wear so many damn hats that is a 24. That's almost a 24/7 hour job.
Yep.
So if you math that out, it is way below minimum wage. And then like, and I don't fault anyone for looking at that and thinking, nah, no thanks.
I'll draw Spider-Man by myself.
Yeah, I think when you see those kinds of numbers, you have to reconsider whether or not it's worth it. $21.25. And this is like, you have to also consider that page rate is based on whatever the standard is of pages. So if that went down by 2 pages per book, then you're also now being paid, 170 times 20 versus times 22.
And Sean, is that average across just Marvel or across big two, or is that comics?
The $170 is an anonymous creator who they don't say what publisher they work for. So
But it's an average from one creator across different companies.
it's an average for one creator
Okay.
speaking about their personal experience. I have no idea how many publishers they work
And because
Yeah.
people page rates aren't known, that individual that cost could be different, varyingly different across the board, depending on who you are.
That broad survey, though, was across the industry.
So the survey was across the industry, and well, it was Marvel and DC, and I gave you the numbers for Marvel and DC respectively. For Marvel in 2015, it was $81 for writers, 372
Yeah.
for line art, which is penciling, and then for DC it was 111 for writers and 352 for line art.
Yep.
2017, the numbers were just down flat. Really, really crazy to see that, and it's sobering. It's sobering. When you look at those numbers, it's like, holy shit, you're telling me that drawing Spider-Man, drawing Batman, drawing Thor, drawing Daredevil earns you this little pay? You know, and you might hear the number $352 to draw a page of a book. That sounds pretty good. But when you break it down, it's not that.
Do it 20 times
Yeah.
in a month.
And you open up any book. I got random comics right here. You open up any book and you look at what these people are doing. I opened a random page of a random book and you look at the detail. They're not just drawing little fucking stick figures. They're filling in backgrounds. They're doing shit you don't even notice. And then to top it off, if you don't put your whole ass into drawing that page, somebody's going to come on YouTube like me and say, "Hey, you didn't draw in that background."
Yep.
You know, not that I complain about that, but like someone will say that.
I have.
And you go,
Yeah.
fuck me, dude. You don't know what I went through to get this in your hands, man.
Yep.
Sucks.
Comics should be way more expensive.
That right there, what you just said, has always been like when we did the deep dive, I said comic books are too cheap and too expensive at the same time. They're too cheap in the sense that they're too cheap to pay everybody who needs to get paid off of them. You're not going to be able to pay artists what they're worth to do this off $3.99. It's not going to happen. But at the same time, it's too expensive for the average person to be able to buy multiple comic books a week at that price point.
Yep.
Which goes back to Cale's thought. Does it deserve to exist at this point? It's thin margins across the board.
Razor thin.
Yeah.
We're talking like the water is seeping out of the ice. Like
I'm thinking of those infomercials that you wake up to at 4 a.m. that are selling steak knives. Like that kind of razor sharp margins.
Matt Fisher with the $4.99. Time to distract Sean. What was more important, One More Day or Cena's heel turn? Cena's heel turn. And One More Day is not important, but people won't stop crying about it, People were literally crying about John Cena's heel turn, but, that's the love of the game. That's wrestling, baby. And then on the writer side of things, $80 or $60 or whatever. Writers are luckier in the sense that they can write multiple series at once. And artists, if you're not Dan Mora, you really can't, or Sherman. That's why you see a guy like Joshua Williamson. I'm sure he's getting paid a lot more than $60, but that's why you'll see a guy like Williamson have 3 DC books and then a couple of indie titles. He might be doing 5 books a month.
Well, and again, not to continue to harp on this point, but like those numbers in that article are an average.
Right.
There are creators who are looking at that number going, "Hey, what the fuck?" Like Joshua Williamson is getting the high part of that.
I just imagine like the Peanuts thing where it's like, "Oh, what candy did you get? I got a rock." Like somebody's getting a rock here.
right? Yeah, some people are being paid less and some are being paid far more. And, that's an industry reality that it's hard to it's hard to swallow. And it's worth pointing out that that's why stuff like Substack was so attractive to creators. That's why Distillery is so attractive to creators. Because whether you liked Substack or not, Substack was paying creators upfront top dollar. Way more than a lot of them could make doing big two work. And all they had to do was the same shit they were already doing.
Yeah.
And they were throwing big ass bags at creators. But we see that well dried up.
And Substack has their own issues right now, too. It's like, well, where's the ethical consumption? Like
They had their
people are like they have like white nationalists doing Substacks that are supported.
Yeah, the Substack has always had that problem.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was.
So it's like where's the ethical route that you can do anywhere? Good luck finding it.
It's brutal out here for an artist. It's brutal, brutal. Um, I honestly, I look at this and I don't know what the solution is at the end of the day. I prefer to have these conversations in a nuanced, bigger picture way than just fuck X. But ultimately, if a guy like Dustin Nguyen has been working for Marvel, for 15 years and is tired of, getting it raw, it's hard to argue with his feelings about his treatment.
Even if he's got a couple of swears in it.
Well, and emojis too, from what we learned.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Never mind. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
Cole said Sean Murphy has pulled well over 500K between these two Kickstarters. That's the new wave. Nah, I mean, yes, literally that happened, but like Sean Murphy is one of X amount of creators who are going to be able to pull that off. And make no mistake about it. Doing a Kickstarter for Sean Murphy, doing a Kickstarter is as easy as hiring people to do your Kickstarter.
Yep.
But for Sylph Stevenson in the chat, for example, who's a creator trying to make their bones, doing a Kickstarter is almost a second job. Like Dirk Manning, Victor Dandridge, those are names that might not be familiar to you. They're on this channel. Those people break their fucking backs to get those Kickstarters done.
It is a second job. The only reason you can say almost a second job is that they're not paid enough to do it.
You're not even paid at all.
Yep.
All that money's going towards everyone else in the pie. Yeah.
Yep.
But even then, you could spend all day doing a Kickstarter and there is no guarantee of success. And if it doesn't succeed, I'm pretty sure the way Kickstarter works, you don't get your money. You don't get that money. The money goes back to the supporters.
Yeah. Yeah, so it could be a bit of a sunk cost there. And like Sean Murphy, like I like Sean Murphy's art. I'm a big fan of his art. That guy, we know that guy has another job. Like he has more of a cushion than the average everyday person making a Kickstarter. Just because it works for him does not mean it works for everyone else.
And he's still having to fall back on exploiting other people.
Exploited people exploit.
Well,
listen. For those of you who don't know, Sean Gordon Murphy is a realtor. That is what they are.
He's a landlord.
He's a landlord. Yeah.
Ben Loudly with the $5. Book rates for single creators will become prevalent. I see a world where you are going to start seeing only one name in the credits like manga. I don't know about that. Lucas Hallner with the 3 months of membership. Thank you, Lucas. Love the stream, pals. On my way to a St. Patty's Day party and parade. Gonna drink so much, then binge read Hickvengers or Hoxpox when I get home. Dude, read Hoxpox. You're not gonna be able to binge read Hickman's Avengers in one shot.
Hickvengers sounds like a group of people that hang out at the gathering of the Juggalos.
And you're going to drink? You're not going to have a good time, my man.
I had trouble understanding some of Hickman's Avengers sober.
Stone cold sober.
Yeah. In fact, the book is sobering, so it might actually cool you down. It might be a good thing to read to get sober.
Absolute Overthinker says, "Can you guys spin the wheel and play a game today if you have time by chance? I love when you guys play a game. It's fun." Yeah, we're probably gonna need to at the end of this.
I said that before we
episode.
started the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin C, that's funny. The DC Discord bit my head off when I mentioned this problem because, quote, "we all know this. Don't be a downer." Yeah, dude. I mean, look, be a downer. I don't personally feel like not talking about things makes things better. Um, and if people don't want to, like, it's like those people who say I don't want politics in my comics. Like, fuck you, dude. What is avoiding the subject gonna do to help the subject?
And no, I mean this no shade to Matt Fisher at all, but it's people who say, anyway, here's a distraction, that are also like sort of part of the issue. Like, we need to be talking about this, and we need to be talking seriously about this.
I think Matt Fisher's just fucking with me, but yeah.
No,
Matt
absolutely,
will find a way to fuck with
but
you
like,
on that.
we're here having a real serious conversation. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, I don't want the thing I like to make me feel bad. And I get that, but that's also the reality. And sometimes you need to feel uncomfortable. That's my take.
Yeah. And you can feel uncomfortable and still love what you love. Like, I'm not going to change my buying habits one bit because of this. I'm going to keep doing what I do. But I am aware and conscious of the fact that the industry sucks for creators. And I have to live with that.
We're about to talk about some new Marvel comics coming out. Like,
It's the way it goes.
I want to say, like, we got to get paid too, but they ain't paying us. Like,
Right. In a way, we're slaves to Marvel because we promote Marvel's material all the time. And
wait a minute. We can't even get review copies.
Can't even get a review copy. Not from Marvel, not from DC. Image is good to us though.
Pro Image here. Yeah.
Man.
can I?
Absolute. Go ahead.
Well, you go ahead. If I can, there was a thing Chip Zdarsky posted in his Substack, I think this week, that I'd kind of like to close this section of the show with, if I can. Sorry, I'm trying to read the room here too, and it sort of feels like we're teetering on that. So just whenever we're
All right. So why don't we hit a couple more comments and then we'll let you wrap things up.
yeah.
Scripture asked, did y'all gift memberships yet? Not yet. We will do it here shortly, so don't worry, you guys will get them. Absolute Overthinker says you guys do it all. Raunchy jokes, love of comics, critique of comics. This is the place to be, no doubt. Thank you so much for saying that. And let's spread the gospel, guys. Like, we should have 5,000 subscribers by now, and I think we need your help to do that. Try not to ask too often for your help, but these are the realities. Shit. If you want to know how to help creators, listen to creators. You want to know how to help us? Listen to us. We're creators too, man.
Shub Patel's got us here by the short ones. We were just talking about how Image gives us review copies and treats us so well. Then how come y'all ain't an Image podcast?
And I'd argue with Shub, look at the interviews we've done. We might be.
But also, look, all due respect to you guys who do pay us, the Image reviews don't pay the bills.
Nope. When Cale will remember this. When the idea of doing this show was first floated, the very first argument we had about it was that they wanted to do an Image focused podcast. And I said, no one will watch that.
We still fight about it.
And it's a sad reality. Like, if we do, anytime we want to do something related to not the big two, whether it be a book club or, whatever it is, it's not going to do as well as everything else.
And then I came in and said, you know what? No Spawn at all. Whole section
and
cut
and,
off.
and he ruined it. Like, fucking
Yeah,
the chat's just saying it's crazy that we're under 5,000. That's all our Spawn fans we lost. We had Garth Ennis on the show long time ago at this point, but it was very specifically for his war comics. Garth Ennis is a big war comics guy, and he very specifically only wanted to talk about the war comics. And we had to walk this line of, Sean out the gate was like, "The boy's pretty good, right?" And he went, "Yep." And then we talked about his comics. Like, we have to skate this popular line so that we can get the indie stuff across. Like, this is the reality of doing this.
Shit, I would have asked him about his Dastardly and Muttley comic.
Yeah, well, you're a nasty pervert.
But it's like, I thought that was so funny because it's like, you think that, like, do you think we exist just for you? Like, you think people want to come here and watch this and you're not going to talk about the boys? Like, what the fuck? What do you think this is? Like, we have to consider ourselves as well. What's gonna, so to speak, put food on our table. Man, oh man. Comics are dope had a great comment that I wanted to read. So the industry sucks for creators. Distributors have to act like banks to keep the retailers in business, and customers are jaded. How do we fix it? You know what? That's a great question. Comics are dope. And it's a question that we don't have an answer for. And we've been talking about that question all day, and we still don't have an answer. But you know who might? You know who just might be able to answer that question for you? Adam Freeman. Adam Freeman, last week we heard from him. He dropped the article that talked about the solutions to comics. And guess what? Adam Freeman is going to be joining us next week right here to discuss that article, to talk at length about some of the ideas that he suggested and what we can really do to turn this industry around. We are bringing on the man himself.
Boy, I didn't know where that was going.
Sean can do a segue. He's got this.
No, of course. I just it was so out of the blue that I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like this.
He gave me the opening to do the plug, so I got it in there.
Absolutely, 100%. Let's go.
Michael DeFont with the $2 says, as artists who have links to your work, we can buy. Oh, well, unfortunately, we're not artists. Cale's a letterer, so Cale can give you a link, and Cale's a writer too. Cale can give you a link to Cale's material, but the rest of us, we don't have that.
Well, untrue. You and I, Sean, have posted stuff on our Patreon that you can check out. We've posted some scripts that we've written. Right?
As artists, I mean, the best place you could support us across the board is patreon.com/thecomicspals.
You guys are right. I guess I fucked that up. You guys are right.
It's a group effort. You got it.
So yeah, well, you know what? And to Michael's credit, he actually did just join us on Patreon.
Put his money where his typed keys are.
Go ahead and up that donation, Michael.
We got to make it that white whale tier that people are talking about.
Michael spent like $10 on us in the last 20 minutes.
Good, make it 10 more.
I appreciate it. And we also have merch you can buy. We got merch you could buy too. I know Young Dende last week, I didn't get to call it out in the show, but he's not here in the chat, but he bought a sticker sheet, which I think is the first person to buy the sticker sheet.
No way.
And he bought a mug. The mug that Jeff Johns uses. If you guys want to own the same mug Jeff Johns uses.
Comics are dope. I would never tell you to. First of all, I don't really tell people to go fuck themselves, but I would certainly never tell you to go fuck yourself. You're a good dude.
No, he'd wait for you to be on the show first.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. Then I'm going to tell you on the show.
Gonna be to your face through the computer.
Julie Raoul said, "Do all ages comics sell?" I wanted to read that comment because I think conventional wisdom would say no, but the opposite is true.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about all ages children's comics, arguably those are the comics that sell the best. It's just that they don't affect the direct market, which is what we're always talking about. Dogman outsells Batman probably every single day. Like every day of the week, there are more sales of Dogman than there are of Batman. So, yes, there you go. Like we're talking doom and gloom, but outside of the direct market, comics thrive. Like children's comics and all that, they're amazing. They do really well. Young, all ages, young ages, all that shit's great.
Yep.
Um, yeah, yeah. Uh, Uncanny Suit said Sean would only talk to Tom King that way. Whoa, whoa, whoa! We interviewed Tom King. We had a great talk. I would never say fuck Tom King.
No, I think he's saying you wouldn't say it to his face.
Oh, 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 oh. I wouldn't even say fuck Tom King in private. I think Tom King is great.
You have differing opinions on some of his work. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, which
yeah.
is healthy.
That's
And I
all.
think as an artist, you should recognize that's going to be the case.
I think not this is the Tom King fucking episode, but I think Tom King is one of the most prolific writers in the modern era. I just think that he's done some stuff that I don't like, just like Grant Morrison has done stuff that I can't even fucking stand. So I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me what happened in Final Crisis.
And I think there's an easy way to figure out what happened in Final Crisis, and that's called peyote. Give it a shot, Sean.
I almost did once.
He's
Oh no!
Sean's allergic to cheese. He can't.
Does that have cheese in it?
No, it's like a cactus mushroom or something like that.
Cole said Marvel and DC need to have an on ramp to get those young Dogman readers as they age up. I agree with that. I think that they have some things. I would say DC's probably better at this than Marvel right now. In terms of like penetrating the young market. Oh my goodness, guys, Jesus.
Wow.
Um, Primer. Primer has been great with young people. Um, some of the like, what's that one? Starfire. I think it's a Starfire book. My name is Starfire. Something like that.
Yeah. It was you're right.
And
Yeah. Go
the
ahead.
Cami Garcia, Gabriel Piccolo,
Right.
YA ones.
Yes. So they've done due diligence to try to get in there. Marvel, for their part, has done great with Miles Morales, but I think they could do better. I think Marvel could do better. I feel like we always say Marvel could do better.
I don't think this episode will not be any different.
I mean, we've spent the last 2 hours saying Marvel could do better. All right, Cale. Do you wanna close this conversation out? We've got a lot more show to do, but Cale has a point he wants to land us on.
Yeah. So last week, Daredevil episodes 1 and 2 premiered, and episode 3 premiered this week. Chip Zdarsky got to go to the premiere, and in his Substack letter, pointed out that he was credited alongside Marco Cicchetto on the credits. And so he says, this is directly from his newsletter. He says, it's definitely cool being on screen with a bunch of Daredevil legends. Though being next to Wally Wood up there, I'm reminded that a career in comics isn't always a recipe for happiness. And then he quotes a section of the Wikipedia article on Wally Wood, who is a very, very prolific and famous artist from the golden age of comic books. He says, faced with declining health and career prospects, he shot and killed himself in Los Angeles on November 2nd of 1981. Toward the end of his life, an embittered Wood would say, according to one biography, quote, if I had to do it all over again, I'd cut off my hands. Fuck comics.
Jeez, I did not know that's what happened to Wally Wood. Yeah, we're gonna need that game later.
You said 82? Was that 1982?
81. 1981.
Folks, that is um that is when you could still buy a comic in at a newsstand. That is when you could still buy a comic at a grocery store. That is when you could still buy a comic, wherever, at an airport. Everything that people say comics needs to be in order to sustain itself, the industry was at that time.
Wally Wood's the guy who created the Red Daredevil suit. Like he made that character visually who he is.
If that doesn't illuminate for you that this is a problem that is never going to go away and has existed in perpetuity, I don't know what else can. That's the reality right there. And that is very sobering. And I appreciate you sharing that, Cale. I hadn't seen that. Shit, we could have led with that, but closing with it is just as good. That is a strong statement. Um, Sucks.
And genuinely, the power of that didn't hit me until I read it out loud. Like I knew what it was and I knew what it said. But reading out loud for me again was uh, more and more I'm starting to think this industry doesn't deserve to survive.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That
It's
sucks a lot.
Want to talk about some new Marvel comics?
All right. I'll bring us back. Look,
As Cale's internet.
I
Cale's
don't know what's
internet
going
froze.
on here, man.
Yeah, your internet froze on your
Yeah,
angry face.
I could see it, yeah.
Okay. All right.
the comics industry has a problem, and it's always had it. It's probably always going to have it. And we have to find a way to reconcile ourselves with the fact that we love something that hurts people. Um, and that is almost as integral to comics as the art of the writing. It's art, writing, exploitation. And we have to figure out how to deal with that within ourselves. I will always love comics. I'm always going to love it. I'm always going to support it. Part of me growing as a person and part of me growing as a reader has been coming to terms with what this industry is. And so the only thing that I feel empowered to do ultimately about this is this show. Is talking about it. Is talking to the, few hundred thousand or few hundred thousand. God damn.
Yeah.
Uh
What show are we on?
yeah, this ain't fucking near mint condition. Um the thousands of people that will hear this, right? And letting you guys know what it is. So that we can all be informed and understand the situation that this industry is in.
And for me, speaking for me, I think it's also good to recognize that the industry is exploitative. Most industry is, especially for the working person. And finding ways that you can, even in the smallest way, minimize that exploitation or at least fill in some of the hole that it leaves. If that's buying art from an artist, if that's subscribing to their Substack, subscribing to their Patreon, doing something there, if you can do it, do not feel bad if you can't. Yeah. That's the reality for some people. I used to be able to buy a lot of original like sketches and commissions. That's when I was having that Dink lifestyle, when I had the ability to do that. I was recently luckily enough to be able to get a Gavin Guidry sketch thing because it was, a little cheaper. But work within your means and do what you can if you can. But don't feel bad if you can't.
And don't forget that because these characters are owned by corporations, they are part of the corporation. You have to support the people. You have to. Because it's the people who are drowning. It's the people who make this stuff what it is.
And those corporations will not support them. Yeah.
We'll leave this part of the conversation there. Guaranteed that we will talk about this again. It's on like a every 6 months, this is the main topic of our show because it becomes the main topic of comic book social media. But next week we are going to hopefully be able to present another side of the coin when we do have Adam on and we can talk about solutions. I'm looking forward to that. I like the idea that we can have somebody on who can speak to, what we can do better as an industry. And that might not apply to us. It might not apply to you, the listener, but it can illuminate some of the strategies and some of the things that hopefully will make things better for everybody in the long run. Austin C with the 199. DCUI Ultra recently became monthly, by the way. Yeah, we talked about that last week. Yeah, we got into that. Michael DeFont with the $2 says, "Hey, chat, the Comics Pal sell hoodies. Looks cool. Thank you for pointing that out, Michael. We do sell hoodies.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't make a lot of money off those sales, huh?
We don't, but I think it's kind of neat. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's kind of cool.
We don't. I mean, we're just like, in terms of our product, we're just like Marvel in that we don't promote it at all.
I mean, our marketer's out on walkabout right now.
Well, just like Marvel, our marketer don't work.
Let's be honest. I'm the fucking marketer. Marco ain't the marketer here.
Well, he's got marketers. He's a mark.
Part of the problem.
Yeah.
I can't afford our fucking hoodie. I don't have a Comics Pals hoodie.
Yep.
I think Marco's the only one who does, and boy, does that guy get his use out of it.
The nasty stuff he's done in that hoodie.
Oh God, man, our faces are there watching.
Oh God. Oh my God.
Also on our shop is the Comics Pals fun rag that you can buy.
All right.
Don't we have a bra?
We have a bra. Yeah, we have a Marco bra you could get. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice.
Yep.
That's what the streets need. Marco bra.
Yeah.
What the streets need is patreon.com/the Comics Pals.
The streets being the Comics Pals. Comics Pals Avenue.
Exactly. Where you can support us if that is something that you are inclined to do. Thank you to everybody who does. It's certainly not a requirement to be here. We do this every single week for free because we love you guys and because we like to talk shit. But we appreciate everybody who supports us. We put out newsletters every single week. We do the origins and the shout outs. You guys hear that every week. But also, you get to vote in the book club poll. The book club poll for this month is Bendis focused, Brian Michael Bendis focused. It is Bendis month around here. And we asked you to nominate books, and you did that. We asked you to nominate your favorite Brian Michael Bendis comics. You did that. Then we asked our patrons to vote for the top 4 books from Bendis, with one of those being the subject of the book club. And the winner is a shocker, because this month the book club will be focused on Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaidos's Alias.
Wow.
Did you see that coming?
It's the one I'd hoped, but daren't believe. I really thought it was going to be New Avengers.
Yeah, that was a stunning turnaround. Our audience made literally a concerted effort to make sure that Alias won, and it did. And so I'm really excited to get to talk about it. It's a book that I've only read once, whereas New Avengers, I've read, pieces of it a few times, and Ultimate Spider-Man, same thing. So, Cale and Tyler, have you guys both read Alias?
No.
I read the Jessica Jones book that came after Alias. I did not read Alias.
Okay. Yeah, so it's going to be a first time for, I think, all the pals but me. And I'm curious, and that's why I'm putting up a poll right now, if you have read Alias before. And by you, I mean the listener. I want you guys who are live with us now to respond to the poll and let us know, have you read Jessica Jones's Alias before? Hayden's Hideout says it's their first time. Uncanny Suit said New Avengers is winning the poll now, but it's closed. It's over.
The floor has been closed for questions and votes.
Yeah. The time to vote has passed. You should have done it when we asked you to.
I will say, a little tricky to get a hold of.
I'm concerned.
Why?
Out of print and not on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah.
Because it's mature.
Oh, come on, Marvel. Are you kidding me?
So I'm going to be borrowing a friend's copies.
Hold on. So does that mean that they don't have any Marvel Knights properties?
Marvel Knights is not
don't
Marvel. It's not Max. I don't think they have Max stuff on there.
Yeah.
What?
On this image that Tyler has on it, it literally says explicit content.
Backshots not allowed on Marvel Unlimited.
Wow.
So you can buy it digitally, separate from the fact. That's probably the best way to get it.
These companies. Go ahead.
I'm gonna have to dip into those comic books so I can do the book club.
These companies are bullshit, man. Like, who are you kidding? What's the average age of a comic book reader? It's not 10 or 12. What year is this?
But they're run by the 10 to 12-year-old company.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Disney is what I mean.
Right. Even you can go on Disney Plus right now and watch Jessica Jones get her back blown out by Luke Cage, but you can't read it in the fucking comic digitally?
Wait, Cole says it's on Comixology Unlimited for free. So.
Oh, that's right. Hey, Sean, can I borrow your password?
Oh, Cale, I actually got rid of it. I'm so sorry. No, I haven't gotten rid of it. Yeah, sure.
I know
not?
you haven't. Need to make that the official Comics Pals unlimited account so that we can actually get some use out of that $8.99 you keep paying.
That's fucking crazy.
Jeff Bezos is going to get a ping. He's like, why is Sean logging in the UK?
Wow. Well, speaking of Bendis, before we move forward, that book club that we're gonna do, book clubs are always the last Tuesday of the month, unless we tell you otherwise. So Tuesday, March 25th, set your calendar to it. That's when we will come and present our Jessica Jones Alias book club. But speaking of Bendis, it is Bendis month, and this month we are talking about our top 5 Bendis written characters. So these are the characters that Brian Michael Bendis has written, who we really love his presentation of said character. Maybe he's the definitive voice in our minds for that character, whatever it means to us. But today we're doing number 3 and number 2. Cale, are you ready with yours?
I can do mine, yeah. For me, let's see what order I put these in. It's very important. Okay, yeah. For me, number 3 is Maria Hill. I believe he created Maria Hill, but the dilemma he put her in, all the way from his Secret Wars to the end of the epic that he did, with Secret Invasion and Reign and Osborn as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever. She was just in there trying to run the ship. And I found her dilemma all the way through, working, as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. under whether it was Nick Fury, Tony Stark, and then I think she got fired by Osborn. But, during Civil War, when she was just trying to enact, the government policy, I found her stuff really compelling. She's just trying to do her job, and she's just trying to do what she thinks is right, by keeping people safe, which is ultimately the goal of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I really like that character, even though she gets a bad rap. And I think that Bendis's voice for her was really strong.
Agreed.
I think my number 2 is Luke Cage. I don't think I had any experience with Luke Cage before New Avengers. Maybe I'd seen him around, but I mean, even like getting into New Avengers was my first years of reading, so I doubt it. Um, Being able to bring that character into prominence in the way that he did, I think was incredibly prolific for that character. I think using a character who started in sort of black exploitation comics and then bringing him to a point where he was leading the Avengers and doing, and sort of positioning him in the place where he was doing what is like the right thing, quote unquote, is a masterwork. Because I think often you don't get characters who have that trajectory because of where they started, and those types of arcs are reserved for. I mean, at this point, you're bad guys, right? Your Magnetos, your Poison Ivies, your name them, but giving that position to a character like Luke Cage, I think really showed an awareness of a certain type of bias. And maybe he wasn't necessarily the best person to handle it, but I think he did the best he could. And I think he did it pretty well.
Oh yeah.
Mind if I go, Sean? Because mine ties into that. If that's cool.
We're gonna go.
Yeah. So my next up is Luke Cage, actually, and everything Cale said holds true. Power Man was C, maybe B list, until Bendis really got a hold of him and reinvigorated that character and re-brought him into the spotlight. And he was a character that was allowed to grow. I think you mentioned it with Jessica Jones last week, Sean. But like this guy gets to get a wife, get married, have a kid. When do you see that in comics? Never. So seeing what Bendis was able to do with Luke Cage was phenomenal. And the way he wrote, one of my favorite things was it was Power Man and Iron Fist. It was by Bendis, and who was his co-writer on that? I'm looking that up right now. It's The Boys and Back in Town, Volume 1. Let's see. I'm going to get the writer on here. Maybe not.
I'll look for it. You keep talking.
Yeah. So that was like a real fun take on the character. It's just his relationship with Danny Rand is great, which I think Iron Fist is not on my list, but I think the way Bendis wrote Iron Fist as well, it really was a community of characters that kind of centered on Luke Cage, that really spawned from New Avengers into Power Man and Iron Fist, and into books in general that kind of spanned the Marvel universe, and that's why I have Luke Cage up there. Number 2 for me is somebody we'll be seeing more of soon. It's Bob Reynolds, the Sentry. I'm a huge fan of the Sentry. I think the Sentry is, again, one of those characters that had growth. Originally created by Paul Jenkins, I believe, to be this character that was always in the Marvel universe, and it was almost like he was a retcon, essentially. Bendis kind of brought that story, which almost felt Elseworldsy a bit, but brought that story into main continuity and said, hey, no, this guy will be joining the Mighty Avengers post-Civil War with Iron Man and Miss Marvel at the time. And the way that he was... The simple way of describing it would be that Bendis wrote him as Marvel's Superman, but he is much more than that. He was a broken man who was the strongest man in the world at the same time. And that character also had growth throughout the time Bendis wrote him. Bendis wrote him in Mighty, then all the way up to Dark Reign and Dark Avengers into Siege. There's a full-on arc for that character, which we don't really ever see in comics. And I'm glad I was around reading comics week to week at that point, because I was hooked on the Sentry.
Well, you can definitely tell that Tyler and I are from the same era because we have the exact same number 3 and 2. My number three is also Luke Cage. I think it's hard to overstate how important Bendis is as a creator to the character of Luke Cage. When you look at what Luke was doing before Bendis and after, I do not believe there is a Luke Cage show without Netflix. I don't think he reaches the heights. Or I'm sorry, a Luke Cage show on Netflix without Bendis. I don't think he reaches the heights that he's reached without Bendis. Bendis chose that character. You know, he chose him to make him something. And I've seen a lot of people over the years call Bendis out for taking minority characters and like claiming ownership over them or whatever. And I have such a bone to pick with that point of view because if no one else it has a shot with the character and Bendis says, "Hey, I want to try something out," and it works, what the fuck are we blaming the guy for? Luke Cage is, I would say, when it comes to men or women, a top three black Marvel superhero. And that is largely due to Bendis. Bendis understood how to write that character. He understood how to give him a life without giving him a stereotypical existence. Granted, if you read the early issues of Alias, you might not feel that way, but I definitely think that his understanding and usage of Luke Cage improved over the years to the point where he became the leader of the Avengers, which is a feat that I believe only three black superheroes can say. Those being Luke Cage, Blade, and Black Panther, or or uh, or Sam.
Sam, I think Monica Rambeau at one point as well. Yeah.
So a handful is the point, and Luke Cage is one of them, and I believe that that is due to Bendis. So I give him a lot of credit for what he did with Luke, and I echo everything Tyler and Cale said as well. And then Sentry is my number two. The Sentry is one of my favorite Marvel characters of all time. Tyler talked about the arc that that character had, and it was incredible to be along for that ride. That ride lasted, I mean, that was about 5 years of
It
story.
felt like a decade, honestly.
Well, if you go from his creation to when Paul Jenkins created him, it's about a decade,
Sure.
I think. Um, the Bendis years of it, you're going from New Avengers, the earliest days of that, all the way to Siege, and it's a full story. You're witnessing a character who has all the power in the world, but no ability to handle it. And I thought that was brilliant. I love what Bendis has to say about mental illness and all that with the Century. I can't think of a time that I was more on the hook for comics than when we were figuring out through Bendis what the fuck the deal with the Century even was. Like week to week, month to month, that was the most intriguing story arc at Marvel.
Whole idea of the void, fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the way he turned that into a bankable character, even though I wouldn't say the Century's bankability has lasted, I think that's more of a Marvel problem than a Bendis problem. What Bendis did with that character, untouchable.
Maybe somehow like I've read New Avengers Volume 2, right, which is the Sentry arc, but I've never I've somehow missed every other Sentry story. So for me, if he wasn't in New Avengers and then so like post Civil War, he dropped off the face of the earth for me. I have no idea how.
Post Civil War, he
So
joined Mighty Avengers, right?
he
Yeah.
joined the Mighty Avengers. He fought the Hulk in World War Hulk, which
Yep.
was a big deal. And then he was, I guess you could say, the final boss of Siege. The
And then
Void,
Dark
anyway.
Avengers too. Dark Avengers, he's
Yeah.
pretty integral to that as well.
Yep.
Maybe I'm misremembering Siege then.
Oh, if you're
Because
Ares,
I read that.
you don't remember when he rips Ares in half? It's pretty.
That was
I
nuts.
guess not.
It's
Man.
pretty iconic page. It's like it was issue 1, I think, right? It was like, oh
Yeah.
no, we're playing for keeps here. Yeah.
Listen, I've lived a lot of
You've
life.
lived a life. Yep. That memory got lost is somewhere in New Zealand.
It's probably true.
Hayden's Hideout says his number three is Ben Urich and Daredevil, especially the first arc, and his number two is Daredevil himself. I like that. And then Luna has her number 3 is Riri Williams, followed by Connor Kent. Whoa, I stumbled over that because I'm surprised to see a DC character name in there.
Yeah.
Different strokes, different folks.
Indeed. And then Dan Trudeau says Christian Walker, Dina Pilgrim, Naomi, Jessica Jones, and Miles Morales. How did I fucking forget Miles?
Dude, Miles is missing from my list too, and I totally forgot.
It's tough, and I waffled between Miles and Maria, and I ended up leaning on Maria because he created Miles and he created Maria, but to me, Maria had a larger framework built within, or was built within a larger framework. Whereas it feels like Miles has sort of elevated himself past Bendis, which is probably testament to what Bendis did. But, you know, I specifically was looking for Bendis' voice in the not pejorative way.
He might have also written Maria Hill for a longer period.
I mean, Bendis was
could be true.
Bendis was making short-haired brunettes like crazy at Marvel at the time. Quake too, you know, like the guy had a type.
Hell yeah, Quake.
All Shield agents too.
I'm gonna end the Jessica Jones Alias poll. Question was, have you read Alias? And 75% of you said no. Damn. Well, here's a great time to do it then. Our book club. Definitely come and read that. It's only 28 issues.
Yeah.
So it's not terribly long.
One comment I wanted to call it real quick was from Joe. What style does Bendis write? Is he more like Donny Cates or Hickman? What writer would he compare him to? I would compare all writers to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Bendis wrote like Bendis.
Yeah, which people have then like Bendis is compressed storytelling or decompressed, yeah. He pretty much rewrote the status quo of what Big Two comics are paced, and how they're paced and how dialogue works. There are points where Bendis becomes too snappy, where it's like bubble here, word bubble here, and then just a lot of back and forth. That's very almost like a West Wing walk and talk. But I think creators since him have only aped him.
I would say Hickman, if gun to my head, those two choices, I would say at his chattiest, maybe I'd compare him to Hickman. And that's Hickman at his chattiest.
Which, ironically enough, Bendis and Hickman wrote together a lot during that time. Secret Warriors. That was a book they both did.
I think there are examples of creators who ape Bendis' style. I look more at the Seattle Boys, and that group. Like during my reread of Alias right now, like I so see Matt Fraction in it. I so see Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. A lot of what would come, even like 10 years after Alias, is so Bendis, and I think maybe you could even argue we're only now starting to see over the last few years of shifting away from that style, but Bendis changed the game.
Yep.
Hecatron says, I'd say the person I think writes the most like him is maybe Chip Zdarsky or Rick Remender. Rick Remender.
I think Zdarsky's a weird pull too.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to pick someone, it would probably be Fraction, like Sean said. But even that, I don't really like to compare creators to each other. But I guess if you like this, you might like that with Fraction.
We're just talking style.
Yeah.
Well, and even like, you know, like Sean said, like Fraction and Bendis are like best friends, like their families hang out together, right? Like you might as well compare them to Rucka and, you know.
And earrings? Oh. Greg Rucka likes wearing, never mind.
Got those Latina hoops.
Wow.
You know what? I didn't like that as it came out of my mouth. I wish I didn't say it.
Hey, as the Latino here, you get a pass.
I'm also a Latino.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah. Sean, does he get a pass?
No.
Oh, nullified.
That's fair. It's fair. My people have done a lot of crimes.
Like what Joss Whedon did to revolutionize television dialogue, Bendis did a similar thing to revolutionize comic book dialogue. Did it wear out its welcome in both instances? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you guys, but like reading what I've read through of Alias so far, peak peak Bendis. Like it's what you can. We'll save that conversation. But like I just feel like it just represents why people love Bendis so much when they did.
And that's why I know he's not here, but I'm excited to see what Marco's take on this is, because he is not of that time. He was still one of his dad's swimmers, I think, at that point. I'm not sure he was born yet, but I'm curious to see what his take on it is going to be once we do the Alias book club for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some news to do. Starting off, we'll talk about everybody's favorite publisher, Marvel Comics. And we're going to now promote some Marvel Comics that you will be able to buy in the very near future. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the creators, well, the writer behind this project, doesn't have a fuck Marvel rant in his future because Marvel throws him the biggest bag. I'm talking about Jonathan Hickman. I'm talking about Imperial. We've known Imperial was coming since December. Marvel teased it back then. We now know a little bit more detail about it, including who will join Jonathan Hickman for this title. Federico Vincenti and Iban Coelho are going to be the artists behind this book, Imperial, which is a 4-issue event series that launches in June. It's going to feature the Hulks, the Black Panthers, the Guardians of the Galaxies, the Novas. Those are the characters that Marvel are particularly shouting out. And the reason why I used plural in there is because it's not just featuring the Hulk, it's featuring the Hulks. She-Hulk, Scar, Bruce Banner Hulk as well will be involved. It seems like this is going to be a... Well, I'll let Jonathan Hickman say it. I'm very excited about this project because I'm obviously a huge fan of all things Marvel Cosmic. The goal here is to kind of do what we did with the recent Ultimate line for all of our space titles, except having the setup book, Imperial, be more of an event than a world-building exercise like Ultimate Invasion. The art team is killing it. We're all just very excited for what is happening in this special corner of the Marvel Universe. Now, I read somewhere, and I don't take me at word on this because I don't see it in the comicbook.com article that I'm referencing, but I did read somewhere that these were going to be oversized issues. So hopefully that's the case. But either way, now that we know a little bit more about this book, what do you guys think?
The way this has been marketed feels like they're trying to do what Annihilation did again. Like here's an event or an inciting incident, let's say, that will then reinvigorate and reform what Space Marvel is going to be. And I'm all for it. I love Space Marvel. Nova is one of my favorites. I lament the fact that we don't have a Guardians of the Galaxy book right now, which is mind-boggling to me. It's one of the most bankable properties, and it's not published a book. It's DC's Aquaman. And I'm okay with Hulk going here as well. I mean, this kind of smells the doom for PKJ's Horror Hulk, which I'm really enjoying. And yes, they twinkified Scar here a bit, but yeah, I'm okay with this. If Hickman wants to spearhead a new era for Marvel Space, I am more than okay for it. Especially because I think a little bit of his God stuff touched on it briefly, so it'd be cool to see if that gets brought in as well. And I really like Vincentini, and I like Iban Coelho. Iban worked on the more recent issues of Uncanny X-Men, which art-wise we said we enjoyed. I enjoyed for sure. And Vincentini's kind of been all over the place. I remember seeing his art for the first time during Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I thought was really good. I was like, who the hell is this guy? And since then, he's kind of jumped around. So I'm excited to see what he can do too. So I'm as a creative piece and a comic, I'm excited for
it. Putting the Hulks and Black Panthers in it really ruins it for me, actually.
You don't like the
I,
space Wakanda?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not interested in it particularly. um, I want the space characters, and that's not to say I don't think Hickman will do something interesting. I'm sure he will. But off the marketing, that does less for me.
Does it feel like they're just, instead of focusing on the space characters, they're trying to get
Yeah. Yep.
the rub from well-established characters?
Yeah.
I can see that. As much as I would like to see Corsair on the front cover of this,
It's it's got that was it Bendis that put Iron Man on the Guardians of the Galaxy?
I see. Yeah, Kitty Pryde. Yep.
Yeah. Got that feel to it for me.
Yeah, I agree. I was fairly excited for this, but without knowing artists, it's hard to get excited for anything in comics. But like the idea that Hickman was going to finally get to do what he wants to do with the cosmic side of things was cool and exciting. But it's like you're throwing Hulks in mix. Like, what does the Hulk have to do with space? Like, other than being shot into space by the Illuminati and the Planet Hulk of it all, the Hulk is not a space-faring character. So why? Like, sure, there's a story that's going to explain why, but on its face, I don't really need to see the Hulk in space. I really like what PKJ is doing right now, and I think that this feels like a weird disruption of that. And the Black Panther, like, I'm glad that Black Panther is getting to be a part of a major event and stuff, but again, like, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be handled on Earth with the Black Panther character before we shoot him into space.
I mean, I feel like Marvel's leaning into the intergalactic Wakanda thing in a lot of places. You know, that was the second half of Ta-Nehisi Coates' run, right? There was like a relaunch, and then T'Challa was in space, and he didn't even know where he was, and there was a whole thing. And Marvel Rivals, that's the whole thing there. Wakanda is intergalactic as well, so that seems to be something that they're leaning into.
When Hickman as well with Alien versus
true.
Avengers. The Black Panther crew is in space. I think it's fine.
It feels like they're trying to make fetch happen with that. Like nobody
Yeah.
that I know of actually gives a fuck about Black Panther being in space. People want to see Black Panther as the king of Wakanda, and they want to see that, him sort of regain his popularity and ascend to the throne. And they keep trying the space shit, and I don't see anybody jumping behind it. I just wish they would give it a rest. Um, and then Nova is involved, which is the only thing that I can say, and the Guardians. Like that makes perfect sense. And I wish this was focusing more on those characters.
Yeah.
Presuming though that this is leading to a bigger cosmic agenda on Marvel's part, and me making an assumption that I know nothing about, that there will be spin-offs from this for Black Panther, for Hulks, for Guardians, and for Nova. Is that something that intrigues you? The idea that this could spin out into 4 titles for those areas?
Is this the Hoxpox for Space Marvel?
Seems to be.
Like, is Hickman then going to curate, I guess, that section?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the comparison was closer to the Ultimate Universe.
Yep.
The way they use Ultimate was it Invasion?
Yep.
As a 6-part establisher,
But yeah.
and then was it 4? Okay.
This one, yeah.
This one is 4, but Ultimate Invasion was 6 or 8. It doesn't matter.
It was confusing, is what it was.
The series itself is a world establisher, a story establisher, and then stuff will spin out of that.
I'm okay with that, but I think I would rather more Guardians of the Galaxies and Novas than Black Panthers and Hulks in terms of the titles.
I can definitely think of 2 titles that I won't be picking up.
Well, you got half of them right there. I think creative teams could sway me on that, but we'll see. I do like how the redesigns for everyone is like everyone gets a beard.
It's kind of Hickman's MO.
Yeah, right. His God's what's his face from God's full on beard.
Great hair,
Yeah.
beard. Yeah.
Colossus beard.
Outside of the Hulk, these are properties that Marvel has been struggling to keep on the stands. And quite frankly, I don't think that there's going to be a change in that because Hickman is doing this book. If you want the Guardians to sell, or you want Black Panther to sell, or Nova to sell, put Hickman on that. Don't putting Hickman on the event. Yeah, sure, this will sell. But
Yeah.
what happens after this? Who are they going to get to do those books? It ain't going to be Hickman.
Well, if they're comparing, did you compare it to Ultimate Invasion, or was it compared to that in the?
They did.
They
Yeah.
did.
I think
He
Hickman
did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is that to presume that he will be writing one of these, the way he's writing Spider-Man for Ultimates?
I feel like that's an extrapolation. He says the goal here is to kind of do what we did for the recent Ultimate line for all of our space titles, except having the setup book be more of an event than a world building exercise. So there's no
Sure, I'm guessing.
guarantees of what is going to happen coming out of this, but I don't see any possibility of any of these books being an Ultimate Spider-Man type opportunity for Hickman. Like, I get why he would want to do that. I don't necessarily see why he would want, or why Marvel would want, to pay him to do a Black Panther book.
I could see him doing a Guardians book though.
It feels
Yeah.
like small potatoes.
For Hickman?
Yes, of course. Guardians of the Galaxy?
Avengers of Space.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a great book for him, honestly.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not a fit. I'm talking about the stature of the creator versus the stature of the book. I think he would do great with it. I just don't. I mean, it's not. They can't even keep it on stands.
I think if they put him on one of the books, that could help keep the book on stands. What book? I don't know, but I think he's expressed his, like a Silhouette said. Why is this called Imperial then? It does seem like he's missing the one thing he talked about a lot, which is the Imperial Guard and the Shi'ar and all that. That seems to be the other shoe that hasn't dropped yet with this announcement.
There's not even an X-Men connection in this cast of characters in the marketing material.
The
that we've gotten
closest,
here.
yeah, the closest is Star-Lord dated Kitty Pryde. Like this is a Kevin Bacon situation at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't do a lot for me. Like, I feel like the book will probably be good, and that's nice, but
Yeah.
unless they're actually willing to really put something behind it, which we'll know when we see who the creatives are on whatever's coming after this, whatever.
Which would line up with, when's this coming out? June, you said?
June, yes.
So 4 issues. We should be in October by then. So Solicit's probably coming out in the summer. This could be a San Diego Comic-Con announcement.
Promote
maybe-
it. I bet we get in New York.
Well, I mean, we have to know about it Solicits before that.
Oh, I confuse them. I always get them mixed up when they happen.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, Jack Cloutier says, "Give me Cannonball, or Emperor Sunspot." That's what this is supposed to roughly be around.
And if we're talking about Hulks in space, there's a big one called Hulkling, who's the emperor of both the Shi'ar and the Kree at this point. So why isn't he in this?
Yeah, well, he's a Skrull. Yeah, he's not a Hulk.
Well, I mean,
A Hulk in name only. He's a Hulk because he's green.
he's like a rhino.
Yeah.
I asked the chat if you guys are excited for this. 60% of you said yes, 40% said no. I agree. I want to see more, and I'm sure they'll be there, but I want to see more of the cosmic characters that we care about because of cosmic stuff. But maybe this is Marvel going, we don't have a lot of confidence in that sector of our universe, so we're gonna use the characters who can sell a little bit better to put them on the front of this.
I think it's a shame that we can never get Annihilation again.
Yeah.
You know, I would love, you know, and maybe, to be honest, maybe it's the fault of gods in terms of Hickman.
I didn't know you meant the book for a second. I'm like, oh no, we're getting existential here.
Well, also our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, of course. He hates Jonathan Hickman. Uh, but the you know this attitude of let Hickman do Hickman, and Marvel won't get in the way in whatever way they would. If that's editorial, if that's marketing, if that's Dan Buckley himself, right? Like they have to. You're distracting me so much. They will never let Hickman just do Hickman and let a thing just be quiet and then explode, right? Like, we're never going to get Annihilation again.
We're never getting another Secret Warriors.
Yep.
That's, that maybe you and one of your friends is picking it up and it winds up being phenomenal. Yeah.
Maybe if we all support it, this could lead to that down the road. But again, my confidence level is very low.
They'll take the wrong thing from it, just like they did Annihilation.
What the fuck happened? That's so weird. What happened? Where did Marvel Cosmic go?
Guardians.
No, Inhumans, I think, is the issue. Inhumans were big in Marvel Cosmic, with War of Kings, that kind of Starjammers, Nova, all that, and then Guardians, and then they killed off Inhumans, which literally killed them off. Yeah, it's a mess.
And now it's just
And
Guardians.
plus, Marvel didn't have the rights to the Silver Surfer and Galactus and all that, so they probably didn't want to touch that because of the movies.
And now they still won't touch it.
Right. All right. Speaking of something else that I'm not excited for, let's talk about the new Thunderbolts comic. It's Thunderbolts with an asterisk attached to it. Just like the movies. See, guys, synergy. The team on the book, the characters that are going to be used. It's an odd bunch. Uh, Black Widow and Winter Soldier, Clea, Hulk, Laura Kinney, Wolverine, Namor, and Carnage, who is Eddie Brock right now. That is the team, the new team of Thunderbolts. The creative team is going to be Sam Humphries, who I haven't seen Sam Humphries in a minute. He's like the guy they get when Hickman leaves a book preemptively, they get Sam Humphries. That's what they did with when he was writing the Ultimates and he had to dip. They got Sam, and then Ton Lima on the art. This quote is from the Games Radar article. The story kicks off when Black Widow and Winter Soldier discover a new threat known as the Killuminati.
The Killuminati? Is Baron Zemo on that?
I don't know. And so because of the Killuminati, Black Widow and Winter Soldier have to assemble this ragtag group of randoms to save the day. And the crowd goes mild.
This is Avengers who kill people. That's all this is. I mean, it's Dark Avengers, which I think is what the asterisk is. It's them doing that without doing it. Who's the artist again, Sean? I closed the
Ton Lima.
You see, I'm unfamiliar with the artist. Sam Humphries, I haven't seen in a long time. Sam Humphries, probably most infamously known for Our Love Is Real, the love story comic that was about a guy who had a loving dog at home and a woman who had a loving crystal at home, who then found each other. Humans. It's a weird post-humanist love story comic that people were like, "Oh, that's that dog fucking book." It is that, but it's more than that. Interesting comic, but I haven't seen him in comics in a while. This dude was like around during like Fraction Bendis time, so it's interesting seeing him back. I'll check it out. I typically like Thunderbolts books. This reads nothing like Thunderbolts to me. In my eyes, Thunderbolts is always reformed villains or villains trying to reform, or at least under the guise that they're reformed. I think Zemo. I think Jeff Parker's Thunderbolts. I think Warren Ellis' Thunderbolts. This just seems like Killvengers which fine, I guess. It's nice that Clea's doing something.
Oh, is that Clea? I thought it was Agatha.
No, it's Clea. Surprised it's not Agatha, but I guess Clea has
Yeah.
some cachet that they need to put in there.
I got to say, this is a lot more ragtag than I was going to give them credit for. Like, I was full on expecting the team
The
from the
movie.
film.
They already
Yeah.
did that comic a year ago, so it's already in trades at this point. Yeah.
You've got Carnage, the Hulk, Namor, and Laura Kenny and Clea.
Unreal.
Like, this is, huh? This is a weird shade of Defenders, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Dark Defenders almost. It is nice seeing Laura Kinney really step into the spotlight and doing the Wolverine thing, and that's being in too many books. Really keeping the mantle.
Man, when I saw Carnage on this, I audibly groaned.
I heard your
Like,
groan when I saw the announcement, Sean.
I bet you did because it was loud. I can't fucking stand this trend of taking villains and making them good or making them anti-heroes or whatever. The Carnage symbiote is a fucking monster. How can you rectify that? I read the first issue of Eddie Brock Venom or Carnage, I'm sorry, Eddie Brock Carnage, and I didn't like it. That's all I'll say about it. But who's this for? Like, Carnage is a character people like because he's a psychotic murderous villain. Why would you take that and twist that into somebody you're supposed to root for? I'm supposed to root for Carnage?
They're turning him into like a Dexter type character, where it's his dark passenger that Eddie Brock has now, and then Eddie is killing killers.
Ugh.
So you superhero that he just kills villains now.
Let's put the Joker on the Justice League while we're at it.
I mean, that's Lex on the Justice League. You know, we've done it.
Oh,
We've done it.
Oh, okay, they've done it.
I don't know how this is justifiable. This is like schlock, if I'm being, fully honest. I don't care about this at all. Like, why would the Hulk work with Carnage? Why would Bucky work with Nate? Like, there's just so many. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, genuinely, I think you make a case for everyone else on this book but Carnage.
I think that's where the question is going to be, and I'm curious to see how he tackles it. Will he tackle it correctly? I don't know. I haven't read Sam Humphries comics in a long time. I don't know what his chops are at this point. But I'm sure that will be a big question mark.
They get over it by just saying, "Oh, it's Eddie." Like, Ultron is all of a sudden on the Avengers, and there's a reason why that can. Like, they just keep doing this, and they just keep explaining it away. But it's like, nah. I want there to be some people who are just fucking bad, and that's it. That's all they get to be.
I'm gonna have to bring King Tut from Batman 66 into comics again. Just a bad dude.
It's impossible. It's impossible. But if you are excited about this, you will be able to get it in June. So we'll probably give it a run, the first issue at least. And hey, I hope it's good. I don't want it to be bad. I just don't have a high confidence level because this feels like even the asterisk being attached to the name. It's just like, come on, man. Come on.
Joe says, read it and find out. That's how comics work. No.
Thanks, Joe. I never thought of that in my fucking life. I never in my life thought that I should read something in order to know fully how I'm going to think about it. But you know what? There's a podcast where we get on here to talk about what we think about things we haven't necessarily read. Are you new?
Won't be after that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It's bad enough that Marvel's fucking us. I don't need Joe in the chat saying silly things like that. All right. Speaking of misery, let's talk about Stan Lee.
We really gonna need that game.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust me, this is nothing I want to talk about, but I do think it's important to It's important to share this because there's something really wrong happening in my eyes right now. And I don't know the full story. I don't want to prejudge anybody, but there's something that smells really fishy about what's going on with Stan Lee. Of course, we know Stan Lee passed a few years ago. I want to say it was 2018, maybe 2017. We lost Stan Lee, you know, one of the fathers of comics, of modern comics or whatever. I know there is a lot of a, a lot of question marks, I guess, surrounding how much credit he deserves and things like that. This conversation is not about that. I would really prefer it if we didn't do the Stanley Bash Fest because we're talking about a guy who's dead right now, and we're talking about a guy who was heavily exploited in the last days of his life by all accounts, everybody who was around him. And so there is a Kickstarter up right now for a documentary that has been made about Stan Lee called Stan Lee: The Final Chapter. On the Kickstarter page, they give all kinds of information about what it is and everything like that. An insider look at Stan Lee's tumultuous final years, revealing how mistreatment and conflict threatened his life and legacy. Now, this was created by Jonathan Bowler-Jack, who is a comic book creator that had a cup of coffee in the industry um, and attached himself to Stan. He's also a filmmaker, and so what he decided to do was to document and film Stan Lee's like appearances at cons, his home life, what was going on. And this is a quote directly from the campaign. The events are chronicled by filmmaker who became an assistant to Stan and a fixture of his inner circle. John gained unprecedented access and filmed everything he saw. What he uncovered was a thriving market where Stan's signatures and memorabilia were converted into huge piles of cash, and rival hucksters double-crossed each other to control Stan's fortune. After years of collecting this footage, he's ready to share the shocking and heartbreaking story with the world. $63,000 of $300,000 goal has already been pledged. There is a YouTube video that shows you, it's a trailer that shows you kind of what this is going to be. Did you guys have a chance to see that?
I didn't want to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, is the short answer.
I read articles about this. I didn't want to watch that. And it's not just because, I just don't want to see that, and I have issues with the making of this as well.
Yeah,
I watched it. I feel very uncomfortable with what I saw. It shows you how there's handlers of Stans who tell him no when he says things like, "Oh, can we skip?" He says, "Can we skip San Diego?" The guy's like, "No." It shows you where Stan's like, "Oh, I thought we were done." He's sitting there signing all kinds of shit. He's like, "Oh, I thought we were done," and the guy's like, "No, we can't be done yet, Stan." And it's like, go ahead.
I did see a clip. I saw it on Twitter.
That's what I saw.
It was like, and Stan's like, "Oh, you're really getting your money out of me," and the guy's like, "Yes, I am." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not watching anything about this. That's all I needed to see. I'm good."
And it's fucked, right? And we know Stan there were a lot of problems. His daughter was allegedly exploiting him. We don't know the full extent of that, but we covered that when it was going on. There are all kinds of people involved. What I'm wondering, and why this made me feel bad, is not just the fact that we're seeing a guy being exploited. It's the fact that there's a guy with a fucking camera who's watching it happen and isn't doing anything about it, but trying to make $300,000 to put out a documentary that only follows the exploits of people who are raking a guy through the coals and making as much money as they can off of him on his way out. He didn't think to call the cops, which we know there were incidents involved with Stan where cops were called. He didn't think to call the cops. He didn't think to put these images out there on the internet and use social media as a platform to save Stan's life. He didn't think to do any of that. But 8 years or 7 years after a guy is dead, where it's no longer possible to help him in any way, that's when you decide to put out a documentary and you want to raise $300,000 to get that out?
Why do you need 300K? What the fuck? You already made it.
Well, for the court costs for when people sue
sure,
him
yeah.
because he followed him around with a camera and didn't do anything.
This is the Uatu the Watcher of watching elder abuse and not doing anything about it.
Worse,
yeah.
Uatu has a
He has a code
because he's benevolent.
Yeah, this is and like he did this in secret too. Nobody knew he was making this. He was just it's all filmed on like his phone or something like that. I think it's pretty ragtag in the way it was made. So there was an ulterior motive while you were doing this. If you're just filming it for filming its sake and you just 7 years later, wait, I can make a movie about this. No, this was the plan. And you did nothing in this guy's final years of his life. Like Stan Lee was still a human being. I do have issues with maybe some of the practices that he had at Marvel Comics and the way people were treated under him. That is completely besides the point, but he was a human being who was going blind towards the end of his life. He's frail. I almost struck him over at a con once. Felt bad. And people took advantage of him. And the idea like, here's my documentary about me shedding light on the people who took advantage of him. You did it too. Your inaction is action enough. And it's super scummy. And I want nothing to do with this.
There's a clip in the documentary of Stan getting bowled over. I thought it was you, Tyler.
Was he with Ta-Nehisi Coates?
No.
Okay, because it might have been.
The guy did something worse than doing nothing, in my eyes. He filmed it and didn't show anybody. He filmed it and knew about it and didn't say anything. And that is disgusting to me. Stan Lee was in his 90s. You see him oftentimes in like one of those like, what's that shit called that people get on to ride around in? It's not a wheelchair, but like
a rollator?
A scooter.
A scooter? Yeah. Because he can't walk that well and he needs to sit down. And you see him, fuck this guy. Him, I'm comfortable saying that about. 1-to-1. Because elder abuse in America is a big problem that nobody wants to acknowledge or talk about. And Stan Lee is a guy that, again, a lot of people love and claim to love, but nobody stood in the way of this. Nobody got in the way of this. And now this guy thinks he's going to present himself as some kind of hero?
And wasn't there legal proceedings and like police reports filed, while he was alive and afterwards that I'm sure this video evidence you had could have helped Stan in some way?
Of course.
But you kept it secret so you can make a buck on it 7 years later.
Yep.
Disgusting.
Tyler said, why 300,000? What do you need 300,000 for? So this is his logic. This is what he says it will go to. Paying our crew, sure, valid. Feeding them to do what? The doc has done. Equipment rental. What equipment? Sound stage space. What fucking sound stage? You need a green screen?
So is the doc done or not? Because maybe he needs a sound stage to do interview pieces to intercut throughout the footage. Yeah. But you said the doc was made, so
the footage has been I say the doc
he's
is made,
documentarizing the footage. Okay, so I can see the need for stuff like that. I ain't supporting it. Set
construction, wardrobe, Tyler, wardrobe. You want me to pay $300,000 so that you can afford wardrobe?
I think that includes makeup, but still bullshit.
Makeup is a separate one.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's actually next. Hair and makeup. Editing, music composition, visual effects, color correction, sound design, effects and mixing, song clearances, content clearances, and legal fees.
That he's going to put many men in it by 50 Cent, and it's going to cost a pretty penny, I think.
You hit up Tony Khan. I mean, all this to shine a light on the treatment of a dead guy in his last days.
Yep.
And what's this going to do? Change the narrative on Stan Lee? No. It's not going to change the narrative on Stan Lee. The story is told. One way or another, we know what we think about Stan Lee. What's the point of this? It's a fucking joke.
Line someone's pockets. What the point of it is, and like
To
this got big coverage too. Like this was like on Deadline, Hollywood Reporter. Like
it's to get what love is when you associate it with Stan Lee. Money.
Right. And you know what? It's taking advantage. The exploitation of Stan Lee is ongoing, but I also believe it's exploiting us.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
there are a lot of people who love Stan. I don't have the degree of negative emotions towards Stan Lee that a lot of other people do. I love Stan Lee, warts and all. People are allowed to be imperfect in life, and he was that. There are, make no mistake, nobody donated to this for Jonathan Bowlerjack. Okay, nobody donated to this for that. They donated to this because they love Stan Lee.
But yeah, it's also like, what is donating to this gonna do?
Nothing.
Like, it's gonna line Jonathan's pocket. It's not gonna save Stan Lee.
Is the goal to put this in theaters too?
I didn't
Get
see.
distributing?
I didn't see that, but it could be.
I'm sure if you're putting out a documentary, the goal is distribution. So
Let's talk about some of the stretch goals. We'll get off this subject soon, but $50, captured hero, one-stop shop variant. A stunning photo comic capturing rare, candid moments of Stan Lee like you've never seen him before. Shot by filmmaker Jonathan Bowlerjack, this collection offers an intimate look at the legend's life beyond the spotlight, featuring 11 different covers, each showcasing a hand-picked image curated by its respective sponsor. Every book comes signed by Bowlerjack, making it a must-have for true fans of Stan and his legacy. Now, let me ask a question, because I'm confused. Why the fuck does having the signature of Jonathan Bowlerjack make this a must-have for true fans of Stan?
that ain't worth Bowlerjack shit. Like what? I don't want that. And look, like one of the pictures on here is like Stan just despondent, laying his face down on the desk. Why do I want that?
Right.
You too can have an image of Stan Lee folded in half on a high top chair in front of a Sears pull up background while he agonizes over taking pictures in front of, you guessed it, more fans.
Variant covers. Variant covers.
Get rid of them all across the board. No more. I'm done with them. This is the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I never want to see that phrase again.
Wow.
Isn't there like original art as one of the stretch goals too, like Moon Knight art or some shit?
I'm perusing them now, and there are so many stretch goals, Tyler, that I'm up to $150, and there are still like way more scroll.
This is taking the wrong lessons from Stan. Jeez.
Exclusive screenings in almost every state in the United States, literally, and
Okay,
Tokyo, Japan.
Then yeah, it's the goal is to get into theaters.
Group video conference with the cast and crew. I'm about to do. Yeah, I want to pay $150 so that I can talk to Mr. Bowlerjack myself and let him know how I feel about this shit.
Who's the cast? Do you talk to the guy who abused Stan? Like, what's this round table?
It'll be a spiritualist. You know,
Oh,
they'll have
gotcha. Like crossing over
a globe
situation.
on the table. Yeah. They'll do a seance on this. She'll be tapping her foot.
The Long Island medium is going to show up for
That's
this
it.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the guy who cooked Stan's lunches. Here's the guy who wheeled Stan to Comic-Con and forced him to write his signature on all your fucking garbage.
Here's near Comic-Con security. Actually, they're fun to talk to. That might be worth it. But
yeah, Comic-Con security didn't have anything to do with it.
Here's Roy Thomas, who is taking part in this for some reason.
Oh no, that tracks for Roy Thomas.
I'm not saying it doesn't. It's just like You
That-
like bury yourself by being a part of this more.
That is the most Roy Thomas thing I've ever heard.
Isn't Roy Thomas the same guy who went hard to get his name
Mhm.
with Wolverine
Yep. Former editor in
as a
chief of Marvel
creator?
Comics. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
garbage. I know you guys don't tune in to hear me yell, and I
What?
don't. Well, maybe some people.
I think they do actually, Sean.
This makes me sick to my stomach, man. It really does. It really, really does. It really does.
This is, I mean, this is the comics industry. This is what Spider-Man got Stan Lee.
I have a palate cleanser. It's not on the show notes. But if we're done with this topic, I'd like to call something out, if that's cool.
Let's let the
Yeah, let's hear-
listeners have
let's-
their say a little bit because we've been chatting it up. Comics Are Dope says, for what it's worth, Rob Liefeld painted Bowler Jack as a saint on his most recent podcast. Well,
I
I bet.
bet he did.
I'm not even gonna go there. I won't
You
even
you
go
can be a saint and still do shitty things.
Styles So Serious says, I don't care about narratives. The abuse is wrong, flat out.
Yeah.
But ultimately, Stan Lee is the one who was harmed, not audiences. And frankly, all this is going to do is harm audiences.
What I don't understand. What does that mean? Stanley's the one who was harmed, not audiences.
In the abuse case.
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand that
Yeah,
the
what you're
and
saying there.
audiences
Yeah.
piece. Like, what's the?
Because the audiences weren't harmed doesn't mean it's not shit, you know.
Well, I'm suggesting audiences will be harmed by watching this poor old man get abused.
I was harmed by watching the documentary,
Yeah.
the trailer. That's why I'm so hot.
I saw a 30-second clip, you know.
I'm pissed off looking at these images on the on the YouTube page. Like,
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh
People
boy.
confirming in the chat that they do tune in to hear you yell, Sean. So
Oh, well,
we just need to get you some ibuprofen.
Musa Risk says apparently he took the footage to police and they said they couldn't do anything because it's not enough. Why isn't video evidence not enough?
I don't even know if I believe that. To be honest, I don't like reading negativity into people when I don't know facts. But like,
That
there's
also
nothing illegal. Go ahead.
I was going to say that also shows how elder abuse runs rampant because that's not enough evidence. It's possible he could have done that, but the fact that that's not enough evidence is an issue with elder abuse that runs rampant in our criminal justice system.
Well, when you watch the clips, like, there's nothing criminal happening. Like
It's moral, not criminal.
exactly. And so going to the cops and that not working, okay, fine, sure. But we live in a world where the cops aren't the only way to get like justice, quote unquote, right? Like had this same YouTube video been put on YouTube in 2018, right? Maybe it wouldn't have been enough to save the guy's life, but it might have been enough to get these fucking vultures off his back if we all knew and saw with our eyes what was being done.
So BJ followed up and he says, Comics Are Dope followed up and he says, supposedly the story has a happy ending and Bowler Jack ultimately helped him escape the abusers. And then he says, I don't know why this footage needs to be seen. So,
Sean, is there anything in the Kickstarter that says if any of this is being donated anywhere, any of the proceeds?
That's a great question.
Because Stanley had a foundation as well. Their Stanley Foundation exists. It's help literacy in the U.S.
So I guess you would find something like that in the work. What will this money allow us to do? And there's nothing.
Do a control
that I
F for
see to
foundation or
suggest that.
nonprofit, nothing?
The overwhelming majority of the funds raised will be to support the production of our film. While our goal is the minimum we need to complete the project, anything above that will go toward making the film that much better. Also, we would love to compensate some of our crew who have been volunteering their time over the years.
It does feel like a for-profit thing, and there's no interest in nonprofit work at all, which feels bad to me.
If the framing of this was elder abuse is a problem in our country. Here's an example of one of our most celebrated, superstars in the history of America, the biggest star ever in comics, being treated like garbage. We're donating 100% of the proceeds to elder abuse, you know, nonprofits. I'd be a lot softer on it. But to not even include an iota of a thought of donation, get out of here, dude.
Yeah, that screams gross to me. And if there is in there and we're wrong, egg on our face. But we're not seeing it.
I'd rather be wrong.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the page. If I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say other than this is disgusting, and I know we all get it, but there's no other side to this in my eyes. It's just I don't know. There's no other side to it. Fuck this guy, and it's just sad the way that Stan went out.
And it is still going out.
Yeah. Yeah. Tyler, did you want to take us to your pivot place?
Yeah. So happening, we're talking about, artists and being able to fund and support artists and community and all that. This weekend in New York, happening right now, actually, and tomorrow, is the Mocha Fest. That is Museum of Comics and Cartooning Art. They have a small little independent little festival, little con happening this weekend. I'm going to be heading there tomorrow with some friends to check that out. But it's a good way of supporting small artists and stuff like that. Look for stuff like that in where you live. That exists. Toronto has one right now, a convention.
This is the kind of thing I was talking about. Like, if you love comics, go support them at the ground level.
Yeah. So happening, I only started getting targeted with ads for it this week, so I wish I could have called it out a week in advance, but I guess it scummily ties into what we talked about today in a negative way, but definitely check this out if you're in the New York area. It looks like it's a cool little fest. Silver Sprocket Press will be there. Fantagraphics. I think Jaime Hernandez will be there as well. There's a good amount of independent indie comic artists.
I like that, and I also want to reshare the Peter David Kickstarter. Oh, I shared the article. I'll share a more direct link here in a moment. We can't save Stanley's life, but there are a lot of creators out there who you can have a really, really big impact on by doing a little. Fuck that documentary. That doesn't need your money. Peter David could use your money. And I wish that all that money that was going to this documentary was going to Peter and going to, any comic creators out there who are struggling right now. That's why we have the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. They take their money and direct it right to artists and creators that need help right now. So I guess that's the theme of the episode. And it's a good one. Matt Fisher with the 199 says 12-hour show. Thanks, Matt.
With the news we've done today, maybe some other time.
Cale, you have to sleep after this. He's not gonna be able to sleep.
Oh, you're gonna sleep good.
Rest? Nah, never heard of it.
That's true.
All right. You guys asked. You've been good. Let's close things out with a spin of the wheel, hopefully to put us in better spirits. Hopefully I've got games on deck. And we can have a good time.
Alrighty, I haven't done this in a while. Let me make sure I get my shite ready here. Okay. That's not
Might not have a wheel anymore. Might have.
No, I got the wheel. I got
blown a wheel.
I got it.
Blown away? Might have busted a flat.
What do we got here? Let's do a draft. We got a draft here.
Thank God. Thank fucking landed on draft.
I added some new stuff in there too, so maybe we'll get to it one day that I didn't tell you guys about.
Good game.
So
as long as you know how to play it, then sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I offer a topic for the draft? Reformed villain draft.
Yuck.
Hate it.
Okay.
I don't even know. I don't even know if we could get 5 each out of that.
All right. Never mind.
Uh, why don't we do the why don't we do the artificial being draft? So for this draft, you are only allowed to draft characters that are not naturally born, if that makes sense. So like Spider-Man was born a human, even though he has powers, you can't choose him. Vision, for example, was born created in an artificial way. He would be valid. So this would include synthezoids, it would include robots, it would include clones if they're relevant, anything like that.
Okay. No aliens.
Right, no aliens. They don't have to be human born. Like wherever they're born is fine as long as they were born in a conventional sense. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So
we'll know when we get to it. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
How many are we doing? 4?
Yeah, I think we can probably get 4.
Yeah.
That seems fair. I've got my dice. I'm gonna roll. I will roll first for Tyler.
And Hayden, we're not doing a snow bunny draft. Sorry.
That's for the Patreon, man. That's a 5. For Tyler, I will roll for myself
5 out
now.
of 10. God damn.
That is a 7. And for Cale, that is a 9. So it'll be Cale, myself, and Tyler.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go my number 1 out the gate. I'm going Red Tornado. Y'all know I'm going Red Tornado.
I knew you were going to go Red Tornado. Yeah.
Nice. I'm gonna go with Ultron.
Okay. Let me get. Ooh, okay. Let me get Bizarro. Original iteration.
Nice.
And let me get Chasm.
Ah, damn it.
Nice.
Literally about to write that down.
Nice.
Can't steal Chasm from me, Dark Web, baby.
Yeah, nice.
Let me get the original Human Torch.
Ah, Jim
That's
Hammond.
who I was thinking of.
Jim Hammond. Good. Does Toro count? Oh, maybe.
Oh, we might have to look that one up. My turn?
Yes.
You get 2, yeah.
To echo Chasm, I'm going to go Kane.
Ooh, that big boy.
Yeah.
You going 90s Kane or are you going like Scarlet Spider?
I like Scarlet Spider.
Okay, yeah, me too.
And then to match that, I'm going to go with Ultimate Venom from the Bendis Ultimate Spider-Man. He was a creation of Richard Parker and I don't know, Eddie Brock's dad.
Spoilers.
That's a good one. I'm gonna go with. I think this is valid.
Ooh.
Cyborg Superman.
No, that's a guy who got cyborg parts added to him. That's
okay.
Yeah.
He's got a cool name.
I don't understand those characters. How about Eradicator?
It's a robot.
He's an alien.
Yeah. Well,
Is he a robot?
He's an alien robot. He's a weapon. He was created as a weapon to fight Kryptonians, I believe.
All right, I'll go with him, but you guys can check the Carfax on that, and if it's not valid, I'll choose somebody else.
So do I get 1 more? Or we're gonna go 5. I think we could probably go 5, right? Oh wait, no, I only had 2. So
yeah, you're only up to 2.
So I get 2 more. Cool. Give me Superboy. And give me Laura Kinney.
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna choose Victor Mancha.
Cool.
Okay.
Cale?
You get 1 more.
I get 2, right?
You get 1 more.
Round it out.
You did 1, you did 2, you do 1 more, so you're 4th.
Oh, it's only 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman.
Good pick. Huh, that fits the bill. Shit. Damn, got us.
Nice. Nice.
Got our asses. Nobody picked Vision. You're right.
Ooh, easy.
Wow.
Not that Red Tornado was a uh ballpark pick, you know.
Cale, do you know who came first, Vision or Red Tornado?
Red Tornado by a
Okay.
lot. Well, Ma Hunkel was the original Red Tornado. You know, she was a housewife with a pot on her head. Um, so depends.
I'm putting a poll up now to see who you guys think won the draft, aka Kale. But we'll let you guys decide. The teams were Kale got Red Tornado, Kane, Ultimate Venom, and Wonder Woman. Tyler had Bizarro, Chasm, Superboy, and Laura Kinney Wolverine. And then I had Ultron, Jim Hammond, Human Torch, Eradicator, and Victor Mancha.
I
So,
was tempted to
ooh,
pick all the Metal Men in succession.
Who'd you think of?
Cole said Junkyard Joe, dude.
Oh, that is
That's
one.
one I.
Yeah.
We were too tunnel vision to big two.
Yeah.
This is why you go indie, guys.
See, I was thinking of when the topic came up. I was also immediately drawn to Data.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Could you have said
Sorry.
what's her face from Buffy?
Dawn?
Doesn't she just get magicked into existence?
Yes, but what the fuck is she gonna do?
I don't know.
Uncanny sued a member of the Comics Pals VI Pal tier for 6 months. Thank you so much, Uncanny. Sean, are you choosing sexy Lady Ultron from Mighty Avengers or just normal Ultron? Because I need some clarification here. I'm gonna be honest
Tremendous
with you,
question.
Uncanny suit. I really despised Lady Ultron when that first happened. Nowadays, much more into it.
Isn't that just Jocasta?
I don't remember that whole thing from Mighty. I think it was Mighty Avengers. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's deep in there somewhere.
And then Matt Fisher with the 499. Wonder Woman can't count. She was born on from. Okay, maybe she counts. I definitely think she counts. Born a clay.
Uncanny Suit says Clay Diana definitely doesn't count. She doesn't have a soul, which I would argue is the point of the draft.
That's kind of the gimmick. Yeah, that's kind of the gimmick. She's totally valid. Wow, 3620 says Donna Troy and Trinity as made from clay. Yeah.
Well,
I guess
Trinity doesn't count. Here's maybe an interesting one. Swamp Thing.
Wasn't Swamp Thing a person inhabited by?
Yeah. He is birthed from a human body.
But the body is gone.
But it's still the soul inhabiting the green. Like,
But I mean,
this is very
topic
philosophical
is-
discussion now.
the topic is things that aren't born naturally.
What's more
Okay,
natural than the
hold
green?
on. Yeah, that's
Well, I guess I don't know Swamp Thing well enough. Like,
should have
'Cause-
gone the guy who killed Macbeth.
who the hell is that?
Well, the joke is no man born from woman would be able to kill Macbeth, and that's why he gets the balls to do war on all of England. But what ends up happening is the guy that kills him was born from a C-section.
Oh my god! Wow.
And
What
listen,
a
I like how
that's
there's
Shakespeare. That's
Shakespeare always has
baby.
loopholes. Yeah.
Yeah.
unreal. Atomic Hound says to end on a much lighter note for today's show, will $50 get Sean to do a read of the Laughing Fish story in Detective Comics and report out via his newsletter? Yes, Atomic Hound. Absolutely, no doubt about it. I will get it and read it. I'm up next for the newsletter, in fact, so I can do that as early as next week. I can talk.
$50 will get Sean to do a lot.
You got that shit right. You got that right. Matt Fisher closing us out with the 199 female Ultron Alchema. Is that the name of the female Ultron? I don't even remember that. Hey, Matt Fisher, let me put you on the spot. Because you're
Uh-oh.
always sending these super chats and shit. Let me put you on the spot. Solid Monster has over 100,000 subscribers. He's doing really great for himself. We've got a fraction of that. But who do you like better? Which podcast do you enjoy
Wow.
more? Do you enjoy the Comics Pals podcast, our multiple shows a week, all right? Or do you enjoy Solid Monster's show, where he is only reacting to what happened on Raw, SmackDown, or AEW Dynamite? What do you prefer? I want to
Wow.
know from you, Matt. Steve?
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was just gonna answer the Alchema question. Uh, it looks like she is the Avengers foe created by Ultron. She is not Ultron.
Oh, I don't remember that character.
However, despite sharing similarities with her creator, she differed from him in style and enjoyed her work on a much more personal level.
I can only imagine what that means. We got a bomb from Atomic Hound who just dropped
There
50
you go.
bucks on us. And it says laughing fish. That's all it says. Thank you, Atomic Hound. I'll be laughing all the way to the bank based on that 50 bucks. A lot less than 50 once Apple and frickin' YouTube get their cut and everything else. But the spirit of what you just did is something that I really appreciate, Atomic Hound. Thank you so much for the support. Matt Fisher with the 4.99 says this one. I like comics more than wrestling. That is a win in my column, dude. You don't understand. I revere Solid Monster. To me, he is the best podcaster. And to be compared on any level is great. So the fact that you would prefer our show is a huge feather in my cap, at least. Thank you. All right. No. We're not done. We can't be done. There's two more things we have to do really fast. One of them is I forgot last week to share what Hecatron sent me. I want to do that real fast. Thank you so much to Hecatron. He sent a note, said Sean had some Department of Truth #1 variants that I already own, and they needed a new home. Hope they bring some joy, Hecatron. Thank you so much, Hecatron. That's very kind of you. Let's see what we got.
Did he sign them?
It doesn't look like it. Wish
Damn.
he had. Oh, look at this. Department of Truth #1 variant. That's really nice.
Whoa.
It's really
Who is
nice.
that by? Is that Julian Tedesco, possibly?
Not sure.
Is
But
she
then
one?
he also sent over this one.
Oh,
That's cool.
Thank you so much, Hecatron. I love this book, and I appreciate being able to add these to my collection. You're the MVP for this. Thank you so much, dude.
Matt Fisher followed up for 199 and said, unless Trish makes a podcast, and then it's Trish.
That would be my favorite podcast, too, if Trish made one. No doubt. And then the very last thing is we've got to shout out the rest of the patrons because, again, they keep the lights on. They keep this possible.
Before we do that, quickly, there was one other thing you promised. And you got to slap some YouTube giveaways out.
I didn't do that? We did it.
No, we didn't.
We didn't?
no, we were just waiting on it. Yeah.
Oh,
Now the loyal watchers get to actually get it. People actually know it gets it out to any
the
subscriber.
The true fans.
I like it. I like it. Thank you for the reminder. Let's give away those 5 memberships right now. Cale, rattle those names off, please.
As soon as they come through, let's go. Let's go. Kyle, Zach Pearson, Jay Reed Art, Fod Tour, and Chewy.
Congratulations. Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you. All lurkers, pretty much. Well, no, Kyle talks. Zach Pearson talks.
I think Zach does too, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen Chewy.
Thank you guys so much. There are videos that you guys have access to that nobody else does. Our Pen Pals. We're dropping a new Pen Pals edition next week. You can watch our Why Do People Love DC More Than Marvel video, which dropped yesterday. That's staying with the channel members for a little while. You guys will have timed exclusive access to that. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate that. Okay. So I got to shout out these last few people. The Grand Alchemist, Shop Harder Alchemist, John Barrier B, Doomsday, David Melendez Doria, Steve, Swarm, Canaris, Panda v Panda, Ted Wong, Mad Max, the Absolute Overthinker, Blur, Jekyll Jose, Kobe the Crafter, Scripture, the Wardens of the Word, Hecatron, Amin Almighty Perez, Houston, the Century Kid Murphy, Jasper the Gasper, Eddie, Pete, Living Lightning Electrics, Young Dende and Lucas Halder, and HUD. Your origins are all incoming. This show has gone on way too long. We don't have any more time for that, unfortunately, but we will get to it as soon as we can. Remember that next week we will have Adam Friedman on the show to talk solutions to the problems in comics. Remember that the book club for Alias is on Tuesday, March 25th. You will be able to see us next on Monday when we drop Pals previews. And then, of course, Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for Pals Pulls. Thank you so much for hanging out with us all day. It feels like we